I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray.
Present.
Trustee Caprio.
Present.
Trustee Rogers. Present. Trustee Suisse. Present. Trustee Pazmino. Trustee Bagel.
Present.
Mayor Yukich.
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay. The regular meeting will be in recess for the purposes of conducting a public hearing. Is there a motion to open the public hearing to allow public input on the Village of Homer Glen's proposed property tax levy in the amount of $1.5 million? A public hearing note. I need a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Trustee Rogers and Trustee Bagel.
And just, I'd like to let the record show that Trustee Pazmino arrived at 7:03.
Thank you. A public hearing note. Christine, could you call for a vote?
Yes. Trustee Bagel.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers. Aye. Trustee Suisse. Aye. Trustee Caprio. Aye. Trustee Pazmino.
I'd like to reread the, I just walked in, so can you reread what I'm on?
We are just in a public hearing.
Oh. Aye.
And Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Did we get a, did Trustee Pazmino vote or?
He said aye.
Okay, thank you. A public hearing notice was published both in a newspaper and on the village's website, as required by law. This hearing is also being held remotely via Zoom due to the COVID-19 pandemic. 1, the corporate and special purpose properties tax extended or abated for 2019 were $0. The proposed corporate and special purpose property taxes to be levied for 2020 are $1.5 million. This represents a 100% increase over the previous year. The property taxes extend for debt service and public building commission leases for 2019 that were $0. The estimated property taxes for the levy for debt services and public building commission leases for 2020 are $0. This represents a 0% increase over the previous year. The total property taxes extended or abated for 2019 were $0 for the Village of Homer Glen, Illinois 60491. The estimated total property taxes to be levied for 2020 are $1.5 million. This represents a 100% increase over the previous year.
And Mr. Mayor, if I will, I just wanted to explain the reason for the hearing under Illinois law. Anytime a tax levy is over 5% of the previous year, you're required by law to have a truth and taxation hearing, which is what this is. Obviously, it was $0 last year, so it's an increase of more than 5%. So that's the reason for the public hearing. And then at this point, Mr. Mayor, if there's nothing else, you want to just open it up to the public?
So we will have public comment now. So if you've signed in, you can come up to the podium. It's going to be a 3-minute limit on it. We do have a bunch of people here. We want to make sure everyone gets a chance to speak. Thank you. Wayne, you're first. You can say your name, address, and topic.
Wayne Feldenhauer, 14641 West 143rd Street, Homer, Glen. First of all, I'd like to thank the mayor and the trustees for putting together, and I think Gary Frilling was also helping out on that detailed analysis of the proposal for bringing the road district together. I'm really impressed with that. I've seen other ones and it was very detailed. Thank you. As far as I'm concerned, it's a no-brainer on the village taking over the road district. Earlier, I figured it was a comparison between the village and Homer Township. Homer Township only has one source for income, which is levying taxes, as opposed to the village. They've got 4 sources. Off the top of my head, if they took over the road, it would be the levying of those taxes, plus, can't remember the other 3, but referring back to the detailed analysis. So as far as I'm concerned, that was a no-brainer. One thing I'd like to point out to everybody that's here is that a lot of people don't realize that as of October, the village is debt-free. So I think it adds a lot of credit to the board. So I don't think they decided to do this lightly. One question I do have, though, is, Mayor, your letter dated on the 4th of this month indicated a $1.5 million fund for the Public Works Department. And I'm sure you can elaborate on that later. The other comment I wanted to make was that if we take over the road district, it kind of concerns me that the people that are in the unincorporated area, and I know some of the houses are down on 143rd Street going west. Well, when it came time for incorporation, they said no. So why should we pay for their taxes on the levy of their property? It's a rhetorical question at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Next, we have Chettinati.
Chettinati, 16135 South Pinole Court, Homer, Glen, 14-year member of the original Public Safety Committee. I totally do not agree with my former colleague that came up here, the gentleman, may be misinformed on what I was told. The reason I'm here today is because I received several phone calls about this, and it doesn't make sense. Mr. Mayor, you're a businessman like I am. We're going to spend $750,000 plus of our taxpayers' money for this road district thing, and put people in a job that they may not be having after the first of the year. And I don't get it. it's not a win for anybody. It's an extra expense. We talked about, and I appreciate the gentleman's information, he got about being debt-free. The other one's not going to be debt-free, it's us, the individual people of this town. We're going to add an average of about $200 to $300 in taxes on their homes, especially in this pandemic. Nobody can figure this out, because I have, and it doesn't sound good. We had issues on this road department. When I was on the Public Safety Committee, there were issues about, something about misappropriation of gasoline in that by certain people working for that department. So maybe people should take a look at what happened to that deal, because that got swept under the rug when I was on the committee. The committee was disbanded because of the fact that maybe things were getting to a point. I've heard also our village manager came from Orland Park. Was let go by Orland Park as a mayor. And so, and wants this to be another Orland Park. We are not Orland Park. My taxes have doubled. I'm retired. I have family members running my company. But I'm in a little bit better shape than the average person. So how anybody can understand how this is going to be a win-win for everybody here, you people got your head in the sand. You got a contractor that's got a no-bid contract that gets 10% of everything that's done on any improvements by the town. How did that slide by the rest of the people? You people don't show up until there's a problem. When there is, you just put your heads in the sand, like I said before. I definitely am not for this. And, you get too big for your britches. Well, I came from a town as a retired police officer where the village officials thought they were too big for their britches. Well, there's somebody with bigger britches, and they wear black suits and carry gold badges. Thank you.
Thank you, Chet. Next will be John Walters.
John Walters, 14729 Gibson Lane. I want to read this. Shall the road district of Homer Township, shall the road district of the Township of Homer be abolished and the rights, powers, duties, assets, properties, liabilities, obligations, and responsibilities be assumed by the Township of Homer? Nowhere in here does it say, unless I was missing the small print, that we're going to have a tax increase, a property tax increase. First time, do you guys, trustees, Carlo, Beth, Keith, Sharon, do you guys want to be the guys that start this, Ruben, start this initial tax levy on our property taxes bills? I know it's $57 per 100,000 of market value, but that's the first domino. You push that domino and it's like, what do we want to do next? What can we build now? Hey, we can dip into the property taxes. We've already got stuff going there. This is bad news to start a property tax on the owners of homes and property in Homer Glen. And especially at this time, with everything that's going on. Yeah, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. I'd like to make an apology while I'm up here to Christina. I posted a picture of the village board. I meant it to be for the trustees that we're going to vote yes on this, that we won't forget who you are. If you vote yes on taxing our property, we won't forget who you are. But I know the clerk doesn't get a vote. And Christine, I apologize if this caused you any grief. You're a friend of mine, and from what I understand, you do not agree with this. That you actually thought there were some other funding options that we could explore. And I think that that's what we should do. We're putting millions of dollars into the park here this year. We don't have to do it right away. There's no hurry. When we first looked at the park, we thought this was going to take 15, 20 years for the gas tax to build out. You can use some of the money that's earmarked for the park, for the road district for the first year, till we figure out how we're going to pay for it. If you guys want the road district, figure out a way to pay for it without dipping into our property taxes. Thank you.
Yanova.
Hi, Sam Vanola. I live at 16705 West 138th Street. This is a tough year to raise taxes to start. I bought a house in this township 3 years ago, and I lived there with my wife and my 10-month-old son, Frankie. I work with farmers, and I depend on face-to-face meetings to meet customers and make money. To put it lightly, this has been by far the hardest year of my 6-year career. Not being able to meet. In the past year, I haven't been able to have any meetings, which my small business has taken a major hit. Doing business over the phone and using video calls is honestly and simply not effective at all at this time yet, until we learn more about how to do this and everyone's more on board with it. From last year, November, to this year's November, my business is down 33% and dropping from this COVID. I think I speak for more than just myself and my family to say there is ever a time to raise taxes. This is not it. Just give us more time for things to get back to normal, or at least learn how to do business in this new world and revisit this down the road.
Bruce Lahab. Bruce Lahab, Remax, I'm sorry. Bruce Lahab, 13136 Railroad Drive, North Homerun. I tried to find out why we have to pay more for the road district when we can't, why can't we just use the money that's being taxed? I guess it's because we're going to be plowing 18 miles of unincorporated roads for free, and that money's going to be passed on to the taxpayers, the homeowners of Homer Glen, which I don't think is right. I understand you probably cannot tax, you don't have the authority to tax the unincorporated area, but they need the service. So I guess the only thing you can do is cut back your budget, find other ways to pay for it, because we're not going to stand for a property tax. My house is $350. I'm sure some of these other people, it's even higher. And there's no reason for us to pay more taxes for the same service we're getting. So look for other ways to find out how to pay for this tax, or this road district. Or like they said, put it on hold. I understand the man's wanting to retire, and we need the roads plowed. And they've done a great job, and we want it to continue that way. We don't want the township to have it, because you know what a disaster that's going to be. But we need to find another way to pay for it rather than taxing the homeowners.
Thank you.
Next would be Roy Adcock.
Roy Adcock, 16356 West 146 in Lockport. Kind of an interesting scenario I find myself in. I'm in one of the unincorporated areas here, so it's a kind of an interesting scenario here. We're on the opposite side of everybody here. We're one of the unincorporated, so you're going to get a different point of view. We're sitting over there for all these years while Homer Glen was on a contract, paying just a straight flat contract. You guys paid your property tax, you had a contract. You just had to pay for it, whatever it cost to do your street plowing, maintenance. We had to pay the property taxes to make sure we were buying all the new equipment. You say, well, last time I was here, somebody said, well, we paid for these roads. Some of you people just moved in here. So we have to look at all of that. Everybody has an excuse of who paid for what. We don't need to go down that road. We need to come up with a figure of who, let's all work together on this. I don't want to be sitting here arguing about, oh, it's I paid for this truck, you paid for that truck. For what? We're not here for that. That's childish game. I have a more important question to ask. I see through looking through your bags of the minutes online, you guys have been working on this, you've been paying for some legal bills, and trying to get to the bottom of this is how long has this been going on? Because I go to the township meetings, we just found out about this not that long ago, just a couple months ago, for this. So somebody could at least please inform us, how long has anybody at Homer Glen been in conversations with Mike Levy from the Homer Township Road District? Has this been going on? Was this going on for years in communications? And we got people coming from Homer Glen, going to the Homer Township meetings, going, put a cap on it. Don't spend so much money on lawyers for Homer Township. They want a cap. They don't want to spend a lot of money. Is there a cap that Homer Glen put on for their township money? You guys put a cap, you can't spend more than $5,000 on lawyers? What has your bills been spending? So you come over there saying, don't do this, but you guys are over here spending all this money on lawyers. We don't even know how long you guys have been meeting. Is there records of all these meetings you guys have been doing with Homer, with our road commissioner? We don't know this. We just found out about this. So in the spirit of transparency, just let us know. How long have you guys been meeting with Mike DeVivo? Whether separately, in meetings, was it any of the trustees, was it the mayor? We'd like an answer. It's just that simple. I mean, and then finally, is there any way we're going to say, last time I was here, he said, don't worry, it'll all be the same. Our roads get plowed right away. And I hear him say, well, we shouldn't have to plow the unincorporated. Wait a minute, what happened? We were supposed to all be treated the same. And already I'm hearing from your residents going, we don't want to plow the unincorporated areas. That wasn't part of the deal. So what's supposed to happen to all of this? Doesn't sound too friendly to me, coming from your own residents now. That ain't the way this was supposed to work. So, you know, if that's the way it's going to be, I'm all in favor. That's why when you was at that meeting and you was asking Homer Township Supervisor, are you going to proceed with legal matters? After coming to this meeting, I see why our supervisor wants to proceed with legal matters. You guys want to stick it to the unincorporated people. For what? That ain't right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Stephen Wood.
Hello. Steve Wood, 16220 Wildwood Lane, Homer Glen. I kind of came for a different topic than all that. I was interested in hearing about it, but I just saw the agenda and saw a lot of the details for some incentives for a new business that's coming in. I applaud the effort for that, for coming up with some incentive. I guess, and appreciate what the board did.
We'll turn this up when we have you.
We're in the public hearing right now.
Okay. I was on here, and I wrote down what I had on there.
Yeah. Well, we're in the mayor calling after we close the public hearing.
Sure.
Jasmine Powell. $154.22 Bolger Lane. Nope. Pat Forkin.
I'm here for something else, or would you like to make some comments about this?
She's here for something else.
But she said
She just about this too.
Hi, I'm Patricia Forgan, 13711 West 159th Street. I've been in Homer Glen since 1973. I loved Homer Glen when I came out here. I feel very frustrated when I see taxes go up, and I really wish that Homer would concentrate on developing more commercial, being favorable to developers, to help us, that we can bring in more funds instead of taxing the people that are already here. It's like preaching to the choir. So that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. Is there a motion to close? People on map Who's on the line and who would like to ask the question?
Nobody has wanted to address the board. I do have a written comment that I can read as a public hearing.
Sure.
This is from Rudolph, and then there's another speaker I'll go to after this. So Rudolph says, just say no. We moved out here because of the small town feel with the many opportunities we have here and can travel 5 minutes if there's something needed not here. If you tax us more and try to grow the town at the pace you plan, our forever home will be no more. The more growth, the more power you want, the more crime, the more costs will go up, property value will go down. We need to work to preserve, not destroy our beautiful town. If you want riffraff, more crime, less of the friendly atmosphere, go to Orland. We pay high taxes now and see no need to raise taxes. Government works for the people, not the people working for the government. Government is a cartel, and you are shaking us down for money that really isn't needed.
Okay.
And then there's one other resident. Cap, you've been unmuted if you would like to address the village board.
Thank you so much. Layla Kathmeyer, 13530 South Chippewa Trail. I just want to say this is not a time or a place to raise taxes. We need to look at different ways to make funding. Also, I have sent several emails to the mayor, clerk, trust managers, village managers, assistant village manager. I have yet to receive response back. It's going to say back as early as October. So I'll just let the mayor and everybody else know that I will be calling starting tomorrow every day until I get a phone call back. Thank you.
Okay. Was there anyone else, ma'am?
Joe, would you mind checking the sheet one more time? I saw that there was a few late people, but I wasn't sure if they signed in to speak.
Yeah, there's just one short comment from Mark G. The vote to levy a property tax appears rushed. Has the village researched other funding options for the road district? There are many other options.
Okay.
And that appears to be it for Zoom.
Okay. No one else signed in? Tony?
I won't even need a bit. Everyone that's complaining about the taxes going up, I hope they're all going to show up to the next Lockport Township High School board meeting and complain about those taxes going up. This road district coming here will be an asset to the village in the long run. So the little bit extra money it'll cost for 1 year is worth it in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Wish it was only 1 year. Okay, is there a motion to close?
I didn't sign the paper, but may I say something?
Come on. Is there anyone else?
Not related, George, I'd like to say something on behalf of Oxford.
John Moscato, 12302 Lakeview Trail, Palmer, Glen. One of the other gentlemen brought up the question, and can you answer it? How long have the negotiations been going on about this highway district? Just ballpark, 6 months, a year, 2 years?
We're going to be talking about it later.
Okay. Have you examined and can you mention how have other towns handled the unincorporated areas when they reach this point?
Well, we're back to, we'll discuss that when we were bringing that before.
Okay. I have a list here and I was just wondering, because I should know this, everyone should know it, but we don't. How are the exemptions? What is the information for your property on exemptions? For instance, do we have senior freeze, long time, returning veterans, disabled persons, disabled veteran standard, and disabled veterans? Do we have that in our community listed and is available to the citizens of this town?
Carrie, you want to take that one?
Yes, actually, those exemptions are administered by the Will County, and so those will still be in place. Do they have all of them listed, do you know?
You would have to ask them directly. We don't do the levy ourselves. The Will County does that, but those exemptions are still eligible. Even for this dollar amount, they would be eligible.
I recently attended a meeting, I don't know if it was considered a zoning board meeting. And one of their big issues, I don't know how many of these same people were on that committee. Do you know which meeting I'm talking about? It was about 3 weeks ago, held here.
Yes, that was a planning commission public
The
hearing.
planning commission.
Separate from this.
And one of the big things that was pushed was density, density, density. And I pretty much made those same comments here, but maybe the people here could have some influence working with them on my thoughts about this density idea. That they wanted more multi-dwellings and shortcuts on how many people, how smaller lot, things of that issue. And I asked them, and I'm asking this committee the same thing. What is this rush to density? But more important, what would you be trying to accomplish? You just have to look east of you into Orland Park. There was a day when they started out just like this town did and had about the same amount of people. And then with every new committee, with every new meeting, with every new year, they thought, you know, we need density. And look what's happened to them. When they got more roads, they got more businesses. When they got more businesses, they got more people. But when they got more people, they needed more roads. And they needed more businesses. And on, and on, and on. And they lost what they were. And it seemed like we were running as forward as fast as we can to put ourselves in the same position with the multi-dwellings in that. I'd like to say, oh, when I saw them built like this, everybody's taxes went way down because it was distributed so much. Can any one of you tell me anywhere in this country, any single town, where that ever happened? It's a false reality. It doesn't happen. You end up, go from A to B and B to C, but B ends up looking like A, and then C looks like ending up A, except you got density. The town is wonderful like it is. I don't think it ever ends up helping your tax base. It just costs you more, so then you tax more, but then you get more people to pay the taxes, and it's just one big snowball that wrecks your open areas. You can build, have more people, 10 more parks.
Excuse me, Mr. Moscato, you are at 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate if you got any thoughts to share it with the planning commission on what I'm trying to say.
Thank you. Gentleman in the back, you raise your hand up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'm done speaking my piece about the other stuff. This happens to be about a gentleman who passed away, was buried this week, Robert Schmidt, wheel ago. Served on the Public Safety Committee with me for 14 years. And if you looked in the crowd, every board meeting, there was Bob Schmidt. Every committee meeting, there was Bob Schmidt. If you didn't know what the things were about, you know that yourself, Mr. Mayor. One time you had to ask Bob what was going on. He got his little book. He can tell you exactly what happened from the meeting before, what the meeting was 2 years before. He had better bookkeeping records than the clerk. And all I ask is that we think about him and his family and their loss. This guy believed in this village, like I believe in this village, and I thank you for the time.
Okay. Is there a motion to close the public hearing on the Village of Homer's Glen's proposed property tax levy in the amount of $1.5 million.
I so motion.
Trustee Becker.
second.
Trustee Caprio. Okay, any discussion on it? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backel?
Aye.
Okay, the meeting will be called back into order. Next is approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of October 28th, 2020 Village Board meeting?
So moved.
Trustee Gray,
I'll second.
trustee Suisse, discussion. Any questions, any concerns? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Next, is there a motion to approve the minutes of November 11, 2020 Village Board meeting?
I so move.
Trustee Suisse,
Second.
trustee Pazmino? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. I am sad to report that we have lost some very good people in the last few weeks. Bob Schmidt, one of the founding fathers, has died. He truly loved this village and wanted nothing but the very best for Homer Glen. He gave countless hours of his time to our community, and we offer our sincerest sympathies to his family. Bob was a great man. I would also like to offer my sympathies to the former trustee, Brian Variance, who lost his father recently as well. We know how close Brian's family is, and we are sending him and his mother our prayers. And Carlo, we also want to share how sorry we are about the loss of your father last week. Your father was larger than life, and I can't imagine how difficult it is for you and your family right now, especially with holidays upon us. If there is anything that we can do to lighten your load, we stand ready to help. Next, on brighter news, this past weekend, Christmas came to Homer Glen. Santa rode his merry sleigh with his helpers through the village to bring a little cheer to everyone. Afterwards, he lit up Heritage Park, which is absolutely beautiful time of year. All the snowmen are waiting for visitors to come and see them. I want to thank our residents who participated in these important positive events. I sincerely want to thank staff who are the elves behind the scenes during the work and getting everything ready for all of us. And while I was unable to participate this year in the parade, I also want to thank Beth, Ruben, Carlo, Brock for participating in the parade, bringing joy to so many residents. I hear the Grinch was also a hit and that everyone loved the snowballs and candy that were thrown out. It truly takes a village to do these events, and what a great way to end 2020. Lastly, please get out and shop local. Our mom and pop small businesses need your support. Remember to turn in your shopping receipts to the village for a chance to win $250 in gift cards from our local small businesses. There are 10 new winners each week. Get out and shop in Homer Glen. Lastly, tonight is our last board meeting of the year, so my family and I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see all of you back in January. We'll start out with the trustees. Trustee Pazmino.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to report, but I would like to wish, as our last meeting, happy holidays to everybody and their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Suisse.
No report tonight.
Trustee Caprio.
No report, Mayor.
Trustee Rogers.
No report.
Trustee Backel.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a couple things. From the Public Safety Committee, we just did the flyover of Long Run Creek last week, and apparently it went well. We're in the process of going over the films. Joe has those currently, and we're going to be moving forward after we get those films placed on a map and we can see where the issues are in Long Run Creek. And second, I would like to thank the entire village staff for all the hard work and the endless hours spent making the Santa Parade such a special event. And I'd personally like to thank Sue Stylen and Amy Blank. They were in the pickup truck with both Trustee Caprio and myself, and they kept us loaded with snowballs and candy to pass out, and that was truly a full-time job. The feedback from Facebook was absolutely overwhelming, and I'd just like to share just a few of the comments, along with a few positive suggestions for next year. And it was such a big success that everybody seems to want this to happen again next year. Mary Zach commented, how about a float with some carolers? And I thought that was a good idea. Kathy O said, I say next year we add decorated cars too, and also a great idea. And of course, stealing the show, Linda Herdler commented, Beth Rogers was an amazing Grinch. And I have to agree, that was a great job, Beth. I was not comfortable wearing that costume. It was amazing. My grandson, Grant, loved the Grinch. And again, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Trustee Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. I just would like to echo everybody else's sentiments on the holiday parade. I was not able to attend due to other commitments, but it sounds like it was an amazing success. And I'd just also like to say that since this is our last meeting of the year, 2020 has certainly been a challenging year for many reasons. I'd like to wish all of my board colleagues and all the village staff, and especially all the residents, a happy holiday season. Hopefully all the troubles of 2020 stay in 2020 and 2021 becomes a year of catch-up, recovery, dreams come true, all of that. I'd also like to say fond farewell to Bob Schmidt. Bob was a good friend, known him for what I always thought was many years, but I know in this room, you guys, many of you knew him much longer, some of you for a lifetime. Bob was a good guy. Sometimes you're on his good side, sometimes on his bad side, but let's face it, even Bob's bad side was still a lot of fun. You know, he was a good guy. He was definitely a community supporter and good for this village. So, fond farewell to him.
Thank you. Are there any papers for public comment tonight? Nothing?
We did have a gentleman that wanted to say something, I believe.
Steve Wood.
Steve Wood.
Well, Steve's, okay, that's fine. Steve can come up here. Let's get done with a few other things first. Village clerk.
I have no report that wasn't already stated. Happy holidays to everybody, and my sentiments to Carlo, Brian Berrien, and Bob Schmidt.
Village attorney.
No report, Your Honor.
Public safety.
Yeah, just real quick, Your Honor. Just want to first thank this community. We love being a part of this community. It was awesome being part of that Santa parade and doing stuff outside of police work. We love being arm in arm with you. 2020's been a rough year for everybody. And we just want to thank, the board, the village staff, and especially the residents for standing with us through some difficult days. So thank you for that. And echoing the sentiments about Bob Schmidt, may he rest in peace. He'll be missed. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Village manager.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Now, there is no listing for public comment?
Just the ones that
Okay.
did not
That was
thank
one for the other.
hearing.
Okay. Steve, we'll get you up here as soon as your papers come up. This is a consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. Is there a motion to approve the following items? 1, accounts payable for the period of November 13th, 2020 through December 10th, 2020 in the amount of $612,002.70. 2, the 2021 meeting calendar for the Village Board, Planning Commission, Committees, Emergency Management Agency. 3.
Mayor, can I just say something quick here?
Sure.
On item number 2, consideration for approval for 2021 meeting calendar for the Public Safety Board. We had discussed this amongst the members of the board, and we'd like to adjust that time from 6:30 p.m. until starting at 6 p.m. Instead.
6:30 to what?
6 p.m.
That is reflected in the.
Is it reflected in? I didn't see that. All I saw was up here it said 6:30. So okay, as long as it was taken care of, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So number 3, the Village of Homer Glen's October legal bills from Mahoney Silverman and Cross LLC in the amount of $10,187.70. Payment for TRIA Architecture's invoice number 3515 for Heritage Park Design in the amount of $25,237.10. Number 5, consider for approval the purchase of a 2021 Ford 250 pickup truck for the Facilities Department in the amount of $31,585. Number 6, consider for approval the budget of the 2021 Homer Community Festival for the amount of $186,800. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Gray and Trustee Caprio. Discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backel?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20-054, an ordinance approving variance to reduce the required rear yard setback for the proposed residential addition for the required 30 feet, as shown on the Meadowview plat of subdivision, to 15 feet for certain real property located in the R5 Single Family Residential District at 15427 South Badger Lane, Homer Glen, Illinois, case number HG 2014B.
I so move.
I'll second.
Trustee Suisse, Trustee Backel, discussion.
I just want to make a comment, Mayor. A case like this is a true hardship, and this is definitely a case where it warrants a variance.
I absolutely agree. This is a definite hardship situation, and there should be a motion for approval on it.
Any other comments on it? I agree with it too. It is hard time, so. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backel?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20055, an ordinance approving a variance to allow a commercial use multi-tenant monument sign on an A1 agricultural district property where monument signs are not allowed pursuant to 220-1005, signs of the Chapter 220 zoning of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen, for certain real properties located in the A1 Agricultural District at 13711 West 159th Street, Homer Glen, Illinois.
That's a move.
Trustee Caprio,
I'll second.
Trustee Backel. Discussion?
I have a comment. I know they were grandfathered in a long time ago using ag zoning for commercial use. But my feeling is that now that they want to enhance the commercial use, but still benefit from the ag property, I'm not in favor of that.
Okay. Is there any other discussion or comments?
I'd like to comment on Trustee Suisse's comment. I kind of felt the same way. But then I was able to, I think that if this were an expansion of that piece of property, then I would feel the way you do, and I would probably be in the same position. But considering it's just, it is, I saw the comments that they made at the Planning Commission, and that you cannot see this piece of property at all. And for right now, they do have a kind of commercial frontage use going on there. And if they tried to expand that piece of property, I would fully agree with what you're saying. But for right now, the only thing that's changing on that property is, because right now I think it's just like a small Cape Cod house, if I remember correctly. If they decided that they wanted to take that down and make it something different, I would absolutely agree with you, Trustee Sweets, in saying that we need to bring that whole piece of property probably into alignment with what we see for the 159th Street corridor.
Well, and then, what good is that sign? Because on page 9, where it has the draft minutes from the November 5 Plan Commission, the sign would be out of the clear vision area from a road standpoint. So why bother? That's in the second paragraph, almost the last line, then it says that concludes Melissa King's presentation.
I think that means in the kind of triangle when you're pulling out of that piece of property. That kind of triangle you'd be if you were stopped trying to turn onto it, and somebody from staff possibly help me here.
Yeah, sure. It's actually shown on the plat survey, attachment 2. So the 25-foot triangle is quite poor visibility at the corner. So it's actually shown, the triangle is shown.
So it's that clear vision triangle.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting at 159th Street waiting to make a right-hand turn, there's a triangle that's made between you, the curb, and the front of your car, I think, essentially. And it's saying that it doesn't block that.
I'm just saying we should make the zoning correct, and if they're using it as a commercial, enterprise here, then it should be switched to a commercial zoning.
Yeah, I agree with Sharon. I don't know why a single Cape Cod house needs a multi-tenant sign if they don't intend for it to change to commercial. I agree with Sharon. They're benefiting from agricultural taxes, but yet get to advertise multi-tenant.
The applicant is here, if you would like to ask the question.
I can't hear you.
BJ, is your mic on?
Yeah, the applicant is here.
It's not working.
He says the applicant is here.
Yeah. So the applicant is here, if you would like to ask the questions.
Too loud.
Did you want to ask some questions?
No, I made my statement because I think in my opinion, you were grandfathered in when everything stays the same. You get the benefit of ag zoning for your taxes.
Not really. I'm telling you, I paid $14,000 in taxes, so I don't know how that could be ag taxes. My husband has passed away. He was going to bulldoze it down because he was so upset with the amount of taxes that he had to pay. It was an engineering office and it was a construction office that he used. He passed away. I decided that it was an eyesore and that I decided to improve it. I didn't want to tear it down. Financially, it's been very, very difficult for me, and I would like to sell it, but we still use it as a construction, and I don't do the engineering anymore, but we still use that building. I spent a lot of money on rehabbing the whole outside, redoing the garage that probably was like ready to collapse, but I don't see that, like I said, I've been in this village since 1973. We own the property, I own the property across the street at 159th and Parker. And I have no intentions of expanding that or that, to even use it as commercial. We've always used it as an office It would continue to be an office. And I didn't want to make it multi-tenant. The sign company is what designed and put the 3 signs. He said, oh, that would look nice. There would only be one name on there. And really, it was Celtic Development and Construction, and then my husband's engineering office was Land Tech Engineering. So as far as like benefiting from commercial, you know, I told my husband when he was alive, I said, you know, we should probably have a sign up there because everybody would come into our property thinking that we were BI rental, and we're not. So, you know, it's like, you know, if I'm going to try to be successful with the property, I think it does need a sign, and it would be designed, actually it's the same company that you're going to be using for your sign here in Homer Glen, that you're talking about building. So the company is very good. I have no intention of having some big commercial thing there. And like I said, I have never benefited from, like I say, to me $14,000 is a lot for that little building. And then, I don't know what I know agricultural taxes I pay across the street because we do farm it, but as far as, you know, anything with that, like the taxes, it's a hardship for me right now because the facility is empty. I don't generate anything from it. All I do is pay money out. It's not even bringing in any money. So.
I have a question for Trustee Speaks. Would it be better if she just
Can you please talk into your microphone, Ruben?
Maybe I take this on. Would it be better if she just had one sign on there instead of 3?
Well, it is one sign, it just has 3 applications.
Right, but if she had only one slot, are the 3 slots necessary? Do you have
No, we
three
don't
offices
need
in
it.
there?
No, we don't need 3
Is that
slots.
a deal breaker?
That would just be, one.
It says monument signs are not allowed
Oh, yeah.
on the ordinance.
The monument
So
sign.
that's why she's here for a variance.
So DJ, what kind of improvements could be done to this property and before it would have to come back to us? Like could Mrs. Forkan said that you were talking about possibly selling the property?
Mm-hmm.
If the next owner came along and did want to either expand or add on, would we have the opportunity to make it a priority that they change the zoning on the property?
Sure. Once they change the use and intensity from office to like commercial type, yeah, definitely there'll be opportunity to redevelop and the whole rezoning could be done at that point.
Doesn't sound like, based on what she's saying, that she's being taxed today either. I mean, 14,000 for that thing could
Do you know how many acres that is?
That can't be.
1 acre. Yeah.
Yeah, then she's not being taxed, is that?
I wish I was, you know, but I'm not. Even though it says A2, which I thought, why would they even have, I mean, seriously, why would you have a zoning like that when you're still taxed as a regular business?
Christine, do you have an idea of what the ag is per acre?
I was just doing the math in my head for that 1 acre, but it is on 59th Street, and
But it would still be ag.
I do have to say for 14,000 for 1 acre for ag is very high.
I don't know if it's ag.
Actually, when they do the assessments, usually it's based on the use, not the zone.
Right, and that's
So you're using it as commercial, it's going to be assessed as commercial. It doesn't matter what the underlying zoning district is, it's always going to be assessed based on the use.
So it sounds like she's paying her fair share of taxes on that.
okay. That is correct.
I agree.
If you don't need all 3 placards,
What reason would I need them? You know, I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm just saying that was the design that the sign company came up with. I said, could they make a design so I could have it for the presentation? And then he said, well, this would look really nice. But there wouldn't even, you couldn't even put in 3 business.
Right, that was kind of bleeding towards what the comments that I had about future use or expanded use of the piece of property is the fact that you're showing 3 divisions on the sign, because technically now our code, I believe, goes up to 6 divisions on a monument sign. So, but there's no way you could shoehorn 3 or even 6 into that small building. So I want to make sure that if we go forward and we put the sign there, and then there's an expanded use of the piece of property, that then the village, can start to push to bring this into the proper zoning. And again, it sounds like you're already being taxed as commercial anyhow, but, you know, we have land use plans and maps and things that show that we'd like that to be in the commercial bank. So it would be nice to get that to that point as well. That was my point. So.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did you say it was 1 acre?
Yes, I believe it's 1 acre. I think the survey is on there. I believe that we said the survey. Yeah.
When I see.
Yeah, it is 42,578 square feet, like 0.98 acres.
I think the rendering is good, just threw a couple of us off, that's all.
And the monument sign is really, what are you putting it out there for? If you're
Just-
not running a business out of it.
Well, I have Celtic. I would like to put Celtic there, you know, and I just thought that it would be a good thing, you know, I mean, to have that name. I still use the property, and I started back the construction company. I'm going to be building a house in Orland. We have a subdivision in Orland Park called Oak Mill, and I'm going to be completing that. I'm going to be building in Bronzeville a condo. So I had to think about it a long time because I didn't know if I wanted to do this after my husband died, you know. So I decided it during COVID. It was kind of like I said, well, I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to finish up his projects. And I think it would be good. I have 2 sons. One's a structural engineer and one's an attorney. So they, you know, my son comes out, he goes to court a lot in Will County, and he can also use that facility to meet his clients there. But we would just have it, you know. I just think people just blow past it, like I said, or they just think that way. They come up and they think it would be, you know, BI rental. And I'm friends with BI rental, but we're not BI rental.
Okay, anything else?
No, I think I feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that she's more or less having a commercial tax for that property instead of something else.
Okay. So the way we've agreed then, if you don't want the 3 signs up there, we're going to approve the monument sign with just 1? No? All right. Okay, then please call the roll.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backel?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye. Motion carries and you've got it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20-056, an ordinance approving, 1, a variance to reduce the required driveway setback from 5 feet to 0 feet pursuant to 220-614, other residential standards of Chapter 220, zoning of the code of the Village of Homer Glen, and 2, a modification to allow an obstruction to be placed in a public utility and drainage easement pursuant to 138-7. Easements in the utilities of Chapter 138 Land Use and Site Development of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen for certain real property located at R-3A Single Family Residential Districts at 13838 West Stonebridge Woods Crossing, Homer Glen, Illinois, case number HG 216V, subject to the following conditions. 1, prior to a building permit being issued for the expanded driveway, an encroachment agreement be recorded against the property, and a maintenance plan agreement to be recorded against the property. Is there a motion?
I would like to make a motion, but my motion would be for denial of the variance.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Backel and Suisse. Discussion?
I honestly, I don't know if there's any remedy for this situation. I spoke with the Planning Commission, and I've been over this a number of times. They voted 7-0 for a recommended denial. The situation is such that even if they really can't put it, I'm sure VJ can speak to this, they really can't put anything alongside, to the back side of that, to get to a 0 feet on the property because of drainage issues. And even if they were to put something there, a car backing out or a vehicle backing out of that garage, behind the rear tires are going to be over the top of the neighbor's property. And that's just a safety hazard. I honestly don't know how this property was built where it was. Something I think was missed. But that's a discussion for another time. But I can't see how this can be remedied.
I was honestly surprised it made it to the agenda because it was always my understanding that the HOA supersedes the village. Right. So if the HOA, if it's against the HOA and the HOA voted against it, how it made it this far?
It's almost like apples and oranges. I think that they were also looking at the village to see what we were going to do. But even if the village approved it, the HOA could say,
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it kind of wasted the guy's time because the HOA is saying we're not supporting it. So to come here, the HOA is going to supersede whatever we do anyway, right?
well, no, if the HOA said that they would allow it,
right,
you still have to approve it.
Okay, but if we approved it and they denied it, the HOA, then it's a no. And the HOA already denied it, and the planning committee already denied it, and the neighbor next door to them already denied it.
And you're looking at different remedies as well, though. With the HOA, it's basically just fines. If you deny it, you have it removed.
They've got a few properties that are like that though. And it is very, very, very tight. I agree with you, Brock. I don't know how it got past in the first place. So, any other discussion?
Could I say something on this?
Sure.
I'm the builder of the home on Phil Arts. And I was issued the permit back in 19. And when I was issued the permit, I put a side-load garage in, as you could see. And that gave me 19 foot to pull out. And I knew that I was going to have to do something about it. So what I did was I put in synthetic turf because I knew what your code said, and I wasn't able to put what I thought I was going to do was put a paver extension, a back out area. I only thought I could do that because there's another house in the community with that. And they've had that since 2018. Subsequent to me finding out later that apparently that wasn't approved by you people or your staff. I found the synthetic turf, which I looked into deeply. They use it in parks, they use it in pet areas, and they use it at malls. And they use it for children to play on. So that's a soft material. So that's why I use that. What I was going to ask you tonight, I originally, when I was at the Plan Commission, I was proposing 5 foot by 35 feet. That's about 157 square feet of material. I went out there since then and thought I could live with 66 square feet. Just a small back out area, 20 feet by 3 feet. To make this work for somebody, they need a couple more feet pulling out of their garage and then pulling forward to the street. So that's why I'm here tonight. I wanted to shrink that area. I only want to put it in place of the 2-car garage area, or even smaller than the 2-car garage area, 3/4 of the 2-car garage area, not in a single car. Because what I found, the homes I built out there, the people buying my homes are ranch homes, and they use the single car for storage. They don't put cars in there. So if I could use that portion of the 2-car, at least it would provide a potential homeowner to move out and then move forward without pulling on the side. So that's the reason for my proposal to coming to you. Honestly, there was a lot of controversy about the synthetic turf I put in. And it was because they said I didn't have any approval. Honestly, I didn't think I needed an approval. After viewing the ordinance, it looked like grass. Yes, it was going to be green all year round, but it allowed no maintenance, and I thought it was a good solution to your code. So that I know, people didn't agree with it. And that's why I'm here tonight.
Mr. Hart, I have a question for you. You're currently trying to sell this house?
Yes, recently I've had 3 potential buyers. I will not sell the house until I get somebody interested, which I've had interested, and I meet them out there personally, tell them to pull in the garage and pull out and see if it'll work with their vehicle. Otherwise, I want to dispose of it. It's not fair to sell somebody a house and then not know what they're getting.
Well, that's great that you do that, but I mean, if you were to go ahead and do this, don't you think there's a reasonable chance that your HOA is going to bring some sort of action against you, which will hold up the sale anyhow? I mean, it seems to me that there might be a solution here to widen the driveway by the 8'9" that it seems to be set in from the far, I'm going to call it the left lot line. I don't know the direction on this thing, but if you were to widen that garage facing and make the garage face the street, you'd have to alter your driveway a little bit. I get it that there's a hardship on you for having to do that, but that seems to take care of a lot of those things.
Economically, that doesn't make sense. Makes no sense at all. I've looked into that. I mean, you're talking about brick, windows, roof, garage floor, foundation, more driveway.
Like I said, I get it that it's a big lift, no doubt, but I can't imagine how you can sell a house that's encumbered by a lien from your HOA if you were to go ahead and do something that goes against their... I mean, I don't live in an HOA subdivision, but my understanding behind those rules and regulations is that they're enforced for the reason that, you know, people bought in there for those reasons. They don't want to have a situation just like this where it comes up later on where there's a relaxation of it, so.
You've said also, Board, that I was denied at the HOA level. I never took this formally to the HOA letter. I know what's in the packet, I know what the letter says. That gentleman that wrote that was not on the board at the time. He was on the board, but he was not the president. And I never took this formally to the HOA. They asked him for anything, synthetic, paver, permeable paver is what I'm up for tonight. Never asked him about it.
If I could make a suggestion, I think if the board, one of the other options you have is to send this back to Plan Commission and give Mr. Hartz an opportunity to provide them with these revised schematics that he has to see if that works. Because I don't think you want to have a situation here where this board is voting on something or even trying to amend something that you don't have a picture in front of you or anything that shows what it's going to be. I think you want to do that as another option.
I would also ask about the covenants of the HOA. Perhaps you should go get to the HOA and have them look at it too and see what their opinion of it is, what their, how they view it.
You're right, Trustee Beckel, because the HOA is going to whether we say yes or no, they're going to be the final say on that.
Yeah, they are.
And so it doesn't matter what comes out of here.
I didn't go to the HOA for this because I wanted to come to you first and make sure that I knew it was a code issue, and then I was going to go to them. That was the steps I was going to take. I didn't want to put the cart before the horse.
I like the idea of sending it back, but I would prefer he go first to the HOA. If they decide they want to say anything about it, then we know from there.
And move it to the front of the garage.
I think that's part of the code. Part of planning is the HOA. So it'll be part of the packet for the planning would be an HOA.
I think if the HOA approves it, it would probably be something that the Planning Commission would have a different view of, perhaps. So
it'd be better received.
Yeah.
It would be.
So then does Brock need to rescind his motion?
He does.
So you're telling me, I just want to make sure I understand, that the HOA, as president...
Yes.
Okay.
It's their rules.
Interesting.
But they could approve it and we could deny it. Right? Yeah, I mean, because
that's the problem.
they could say, oh, it's all right if you build a castle here, and the village doesn't allow castles. We can't do that because they do it. But they could say, it's the other way around. It's the whole reason for having covenants.
and an HOA, so that the people who buy into when they get their title and their title shows their covenants, they're gonna say, all right, I'm comfortable buying in Stonebridge because I know nobody's allowed to build a castle.
I think what we're getting at too is just the idea, as I said, it's going to be better received. If the HOA says, hey, we're in support of this, we're okay with it, I think that's going to carry some weight with the Plan Commission and this board. But I think without having that, it's a little bit difficult. And that's when you're saying, do they have precedent? Well, like I said, it's apples and oranges. They're on two different paths, but in order to make sure that they both get approved, I think it's good. This board wants to hear from the HOA.
So you're not wasting your time.
Interesting.
It's the whole purpose, in my opinion, it's the whole purpose of having CC&Rs, so that when you buy and you get that title at closing, you understand, that the subdivision that you're building into is like-minded. It might even be as simple as your subdivision that doesn't allow asphalt. Well, the village allows asphalt, but we can't, the subdivision doesn't allow asphalt, but the village allows asphalt, so that, in that instance, the HOA would overrule it.
If I may, can I ask a question? So if he goes to his HOA and they say, yes, we'll approve this for you, and he comes here, you guys can still say no. So you're sending him away to go be told if they say yes.
And what we're saying is if he goes to the HOA and the HOA says yes, the public, then he goes back to planning. Planning's probably more likely to say, yeah, if they're comfortable, we're comfortable with it, and then we could be more in supportive of that. But with everybody being against it.
Is there an intermediary that you could probably propose that plan to that's not a formal commission? Maybe it could kind of guide him in the right direction before he is in front of us again, or in front of the planning commission?
That would be his HOA.
Oh, but after he gets his HOA approval and they say you're good, when you listed him again, is there a way to send him somewhere like DJ or somebody? Just so they can look at the plans before he, says, you know what, you're on the right track, you have a chance.
That's what they always do, that's the process.
Right, that's
BJ does. Yeah,
is there a person that can see?
That's what he does.
All right, so what do you think?
I appreciate your direction in this. However, I think I need your approval first before I go to the board. I really feel that way.
I think it's pretty clear you're not going to get the approval of this board right now. That's why I'm suggesting that it get pushed back or sent back, so that way you have an opportunity to work with it. If they deny it outright, you're done.
I would also say that, this homeowners association in this particular subdivision is fairly strong, and we have a pretty good relationship with them. I'm sure that we could reach out to them and try to see what their feedback is on it. There's a lot of subdivisions in the town that don't have an active HOA. This one has a very active HOA, and we've dealt with them in the past. I personally would be happy to call them up and have a conversation with them and see what their feedback was on it.
I believe your staff has already done that.
Yeah, And my other comment is, even if in your revisions or whatever you were thinking, if you're still going to be at 0 foot on the property line, I would be definitely against that.
No, that isn't my proposal. It might say that, but I said tonight, what I would do is reduce it to 3 foot by 20 feet. 22 feet, 66 square feet. That's almost 100 square feet. I reduced it. So I'm just giving them a backup area. I'm not extending the driveway. This isn't to have a resident drive on it. It's to provide a back out area. That's all it's for.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add a comment. If you look at the staff supplemental sheet, the page 1 of that provided to the board, staff did try to reach a compromise with the HOAs of the neighborhood. Staff reached out to them and asked if whether they would be agreeable to reducing the driveway to 2.5 feet. And both the HOA as well as the adjacent neighbors said no, that they would not agree to that either. So those attempts to try to find a compromise did not work out as, but staff did try to do that.
And I would-
Even with this material that he's proposed? Oh, they saw all this too?
Yes.
Well, he had it down at one time.
So what happens, this gets tabled and he comes back, or,
Well, he can, they've already talked to the HOA Association, and they said no. It would be foolish for us to,
Which is fine.
waste his time going back. And if this is not gonna, no one's gonna vote for it here because of, I've been over there, so I saw what it is. You could probably get away with a two-seater MG to pull the thing in and out and not have a problem. But anything bigger would be too hard. It's too tight of a turn. I mean, if you want to jockey it 15, 20 times to get in the garage, you probably could do it. But I'd hate to do it in the winter.
The issue is, there is enough room. The issue is you have to pull out on the side that's there. That's the issue. I've got 5 feet additional off the driveway. I want to give them a back out area, that's it, so that every time they pull out of the driveway, they're not pulling on to the side. They've got an area that's hard there that they don't have to maintain consistently. That's all I'm looking for. Don't want to extend the driveway at all.
I would, there are 2 options I think that are available, just so we make sure that we all understand what those options are. One, obviously, the board can vote on the recommendation of the planning commission to deny, which was the motion made by trustee Backel. If that gets approved, you're going to have to wait a whole year to come back with a solution. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. The other option is you can remand it back to the planning commission and see if there is still a way to reach a compromise. And that way you won't be having to wait for a whole year. Those are really the only 2 options I see as a path forward.
But you said the HOA, it's going to be a matter of wasting his time because they said they're not going to change.
Maybe he brings his lawyer this time, I don't know.
Yeah, because this
There's
is
anything else for
neither entity is supportive of any expansion beyond the existing driveway. None. So he'd have to get them to change their mind first.
Yeah.
And I do feel bad for the neighbor next to him who's like, you know, they bought and signed a title where they had understandings of what covenants they were going to happen there. But I mean, I look to you, sir, what would you prefer for us to do?
What were the options again?
They can take the vote tonight, but if it's not what you desire, then you can't repetition for anything for a year. That's in our code. Or you could have it remanded back to the planning commission and try to still work on a compromise.
Okay. I'll go to the planning commission.
I would definitely try to sit down with the HOA with a lawyer and see what they can do.
Thank you.
So Carrie, how do I amend my,
Just offer a substitute motion.
You offer a substitute motion to remand it to the planning commission.
yeah. So that's what I'll do. I'll ask for a substitute motion to send this back to the planning commission.
so move.
Trustee Suisse was the second.
Second.
I'll second.
It's okay. Do we need a vote on that, then?
Yes.
And then, all right, so Sharon, you will agree to the amendment? All right. Then could you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backel?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Cabrio?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20-057, an ordinance amending 83-68 of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen, increasing the number of Class B liquor licenses issued within the Village of Homer Glen. It is understood that that the number of Class B liquor licenses, restaurant and bar, will increase by 1.
So moved.
Trustee Rogers. Trustee Backel. Discussion.
The only discussion I have, Mayor, is we've been offering a break to bars and restaurants on their liquor license. Would that apply to this also?
No, trustee Backel, there's, in the code, there's already built-in proration for liquor licenses, so their annual amount is already prorated 50%, so that additional proration would not apply.
Okay, that's my only question.
That goes into effect because of the date that they applied for it after November 1st, is that correct?
Correct, so after half the year, it's a half fee.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Backel?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Caprio? Aye. Trustee Pazmino?
I must abstain due to conflict with liquor license.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20-058, an ordinance assigning an available Class B liquor license restaurant and bar to Phoenix Kitchen and Cocktails, Inc., doing business as the Phoenix Kitchen and Cocktails, located at 15905 South Bell, Homer Glen, Illinois.
That's the move.
Trustee Caprio,
I'll second.
trustee Backel. Discussion. Okay, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
I must abstain due to conflict with liquor license.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backel?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, is there a motion to approve an economic development incentive for the Phoenix Kitchen and Cocktails, Inc., structured for the village to retain a base of 1% sales tax revenue generated by the former Bonfire Restaurant in the amount of $7,500 each year of the incentive agreement. The rebate of 60% of the 1% sales tax revenue increments above the base with a maximum term of 10 years and a total incentive cap of $125,000, whichever comes first, and to direct the village manager to prepare an incentive agreement for exceptions subject to village attorney review.
So moved.
Trustee Gray and Carlo?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Discussion.
Mayor, do we want to hear from Mr. Wood first?
Yeah, you want to, you
Could-
can,
If I could please maybe provide an introduction and explain the proposal here, and then Dan Sinise from the restaurant is available tonight. So the owners of the Phoenix Kitchen and Cocktails are preparing to create a new destination restaurant that will draw patrons from Homer Glen and the surrounding area. This will have a positive impact on surrounding existing businesses. Residents have been asking for this type of dining option. The Phoenix owners are requesting sales tax sharing assistance to open their upscale casual concept at the former Bonfire property. They've requested $225,000 through sales tax sharing to address the financial gap associated with bringing the property and its 24-year-old building back to a premier marketable position. Extraordinary costs identified include major renovations to an antiquated design with neglected maintenance and improvements to enable operating within the uncertainties of COVID. The proposed incentive is consistent with the Village Board's Standard Operating Procedure number 7. The incentive is structured to do 3 things: retain the base sales tax revenue from the former Bonfire, ensure that the rebate does not exceed the amount retained by the village in any given year, and then thirdly, to limit the term to 10 years. So those are all things that are coming from the SOP number 7. Based on projected sales, a 60-40 split is proposed in order to stay in line with the SOP number 7. This scenario may actually only rebate a total of about $106,000 over a 10-year agreement. However, the proposed structure includes a cap of $125,000, and this is therefore a further incentive for performance above projected sales. The proposed incentive is a performance-based rebate. It does not place the village at risk. The village will regain the base sales tax revenue from the former Bonfire, and only share a portion of the incremental increase in sales tax revenue produced by the Phoenix. The village would retain 100% of the home rule sales tax and 58% of the 1% sales tax generated by the Phoenix over a 10-year agreement. The opening of the Phoenix will help us attract more of this category, the casual, upscale, sit-down restaurant, to address the current retail gap in the market. A vacant building will be updated and transformed into the new concept to achieve this destination status. The new owners are requesting the incentive to spearhead the project in the right direction, to correctly update and revitalize the property back to a premier marketable position. The amount they propose to spend exceeds the normal restaurant renovation budget. The restaurant will create 25 permanent jobs. The Phoenix is expected to bring positive results for the surrounding businesses and future economic development opportunities. 16 criteria from SOP number 7 were used to evaluate the Phoenix's request for sales tax sharing. The Community and Economic Development Committee unanimously recommended the incentive and proposed structure for approval. There's also a draft economic incentive agreement that was included in your agenda packet pending village board approval of the proposed incentive, and a clawback clause will be added to protect the village should the restaurant close before its 5th anniversary. Upscale casual eateries are very limited in Homer, Glen, and the surrounding area. The ownership team is very experienced in restaurant concept development, execution, and operation. They plan to bring a quality restaurant with upgrades to meet residents' interest in new upscale casual dining options. I mentioned Dan Sinise is here tonight. Dan, if you'd like to come on up, please. And I think there are some slides in the slide deck here. Maybe you would like to go back to the visuals. Yes, thank you. The beginning of it. And so I'm going to turn it over to him so he can share the restaurant concept with the board.
Hi everybody, I'm Dan Sinise. This is my partner Joe Cristiano. We're happy to be here. This is an interesting meeting to be involved in. But like Jake, you said it great. You talked about everything that we plan on doing. We're very excited to acquire the bonfire. We completely demoed the inside, and I believe the photo that you'll see some of the awnings we're going to do. It's going to be a nice, just upscale, casual restaurant, affordable, approachable, with some nice items. It's going to be beautiful stained concrete floors, white trim wood bar. It's going to be sharp, and we're very excited to do this. One of the main things, as listening to tonight's meeting is...
Excuse me, could you talk into the mic back?
Sorry, yes. One of the main things after listening to tonight's meeting is you don't want to see your taxes go up. I know I don't want to see my taxes go up, and they constantly go up in my home, everywhere else. But the nice thing about what we're going to do here with the bonfire property is that property hasn't generated any sales tax in the last 7 or 8 months for the city of Homer. And with what we're bringing to the plate, we plan on generating a lot of sales tax for the city of Homer. And in addition, what's nice is for the existing restaurants, by adding our property, it just brings more people to the area that will spend across the street at Ruby Agave and any of the other neighboring properties. And what's nice too is it keeps Homer dollars being spent in Homer. So I think that by us doing this, it's a benefit to the community in addition to just providing a nice dining option.
I think it looks beautiful. We welcome you.
Yeah, I do agree with what you're saying. I mean, there's always a reason why Home Depot and Lowe's build next to each other. People always say, why do you do that? It's because those are destination-oriented places. They be driving down the street, they know what they're going for. Joe, were you associated with Francesca's and Mama Murray's?
Yeah.
Or in the taco place in Craig?
Yeah, I worked for Francesca's Restaurant Group for 17 years. I was in charge of, I was a regional director for the whole South Side, and I was in charge of opening up 6 different Francesca's, the Fat Rosie's Concept, Devontae and Oteca, Joe's Imports in the city. So yeah, I was with them for a long time. I have a chance to partner up with a longtime friend and Our families go back 35 years. We've been talking about opening a place together forever. So this was a great time during COVID to open up a restaurant, I guess.
And then also, wasn't there a wine bar in the city that you were part of too?
Yeah, it was we opened up a restaurant called Joe's Imports. It was a Mediterranean restaurant and wine bar. Featured Mediterranean dishes throughout the world, along with a wine list that extended 150 bottles of wine all over the world, mostly organic and biodynamic, which we're trying to bring to this restaurant also.
And the reason why I bring that up is because we're not dealing with beginners here. I've seen you at the restaurant before, so I'm familiar with that. And then there was a donut concept that they kind of went off of from Francesca's. So I've seen, you know, Joe at various, from the city of Chicago to Frankfurt. I think I saw him out in Bolingbrook. So, you know, we're not dealing with somebody that's new here and is going to gamble away, you know, village funds or village money. They're coming with a history of it. This is the type of programs that villages are using, and this is exactly what it's called, incentive. It's an incentive to bring people to Homer Glen. This is the type of thing we need. The Village Memorial Park just did one with Stan's Donuts. And just coincidentally, their first day open was Saturday, and I don't know why. I was driving down that street, but it was like, holy smoly, there was probably 200 cars there. So it's showing you that the people in this area are looking for new concepts, and this is definitely something that's going to be unique and bring traffic down 159th Street, draw them to other places, and I think it's great. It's a great project.
Agreed. Any other comments or any questions?
I do. Welcome to Homer Glen, by the way, so I'm your new neighbor. Love the fact that you guys are there. I saw the menu, saw the drinks, really impressed. And to be honest with you, I can't wait to go eat there. But you know, let's look at the elephant in the room. I also do represent, you know, other restaurants in Homer Glen, other bars that are going through it right now, you know. So some of those people are here, and I'd like to see why, maybe what you could do to kind of come into the club. You know what I mean? As far as you know, we're fully vested. These businesses are fully vested. I think the most any of them ever got was $10,000 that they have to pay back in a year. And then now, you know, I understand these types of TIF type incentive programs, but I mean, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I left this building and didn't represent the feelings of many business owners in Homer. So maybe if you could just, you know, let her rip.
It's a very valid question. Like was mentioned before, bringing us in brings more people to the area. More people will now dine at your restaurant. More people will now stop at your restaurant to have a drink before or after our dinner. Or they'll stop at my restaurant prior to have a drink before they go to your restaurant for dinner. And this is what's good for the whole corridor. They'll stop at Taz's, they'll stop at Aldi's. A lot of my customers, I currently own Public Landing, and a lot of my customers live in Homer Glen, and they've been asking for a different concept. Because they already frequent your concept, but they also, people are willing to go out to eat 7 nights a week. But if they only have 3 or 4 or 5 concepts, that only fulfills 4 to 5 nights a week of their eating demand. We're there just to fill an extra day of that. In addition, this isn't money that's being handed out to us. This is money that we're bringing in additionally above the base that Bonfire was already bringing in. We plan on bringing in that much more. So all we're asking for is a little piece of it back to help offset what we're doing over there.
Thank you very much. And maybe add some feedback for this board. Perhaps we should be offering this for some of our current restaurants that have been here for decades and many, many years. You know, they'd like to see some of those incentives too. Now, not even talk about my place. I'll be honest, I am thrilled that you guys are there because of the fact that I know that when they're done eating at your place, they're going to come to my place to have a drink and maybe dance and whatever. When Mr. Pritzker decides it's okay.
For sure.
But you know, this is just something that needs to be stated. And at the end of it, you know, you're a businessman, and I salute you guys for even asking for that, because a lot of businesses didn't even know that existed, which is something that we need to focus on with this board as well. But hey, welcome to Homer Glen, welcome to 159.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Open arms.
And you guys bought the building, correct?
Yes.
And so I think that's where the incentives come through. It's a freestanding building. It's not part of like an inline multi-tenant building where those do exist as well. You know, we give incentives, not we, the village people, the village gives incentives out for strip centers to be built back in the days, but this is a freestanding building. I think that's why it's a little bit different.
All right.
I do have a question, Mayor. More for staff, kind of picking up on where Trustee Pasmino left off, as to, we have maybe another new restaurant, because everything we've done in the past has been the big box stores, Menards, Jewel, blah, 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 Big R. I was wondering, do they have, when you have this kind of incentive program, do they have to, a new bar and restaurant or whatever, or say, Shorewood, who built the building, do they have to come and ask for it? You know, how does that, you know, do they, if they don't ask for it, it's like, oh, you're out of luck?
I believe it says it right in the SOP that it's to be requested by the...
It has to be requested, okay.
I think you might be thinking, she might be referring to like TIF districts, which is a little different.
Which is completely different than this, yeah.
Can I say one thing too up here? The whole thing about the tax incentive too is if you really dig into it, and you know, I think most of you have, if we don't perform as a restaurant, we don't get anything. So I think it's really, you know, the ball's kind of in our court where if we're not bringing in sales and generating tax money for this town, we're not getting anything back either. You know, so it's a big thing on our end to make sure that this restaurant succeeds. You know, nobody ever wants a loser, right? Especially in their town, we want winners everywhere. And what we're proposing and bringing, you know, and all these pictures that you guys are seeing are inspirations of what we're going to try to do throughout the restaurant and spend the dollars that it's going to cost. You know, we want this to be a winner. We want this to be the destination restaurant. We want people to have Homer Glen on their map saying that, oh my God, you should go and check out all the restaurants that are in Homer Glen. You know, especially yours. I mean, I'll be honest with you, working with Francesca's and all the other restaurants I used to dine out frequently, I've never seen a restaurant decorated for Christmas like yours. So, that's competition for us to go for.
Those are all great points, and we did go over a lot of this that's been talked about tonight at the Community Economic Development meeting when we looked at this piece. And we did have a few modifications to it, and you know, a couple things that they were in the packet piece and they were in the intro from Janie, but they bear repeating. You know, there's going to be a clawback for the first 5 years just to make sure that, you know, should anything happen to them, we'll be in, we're always in good shape because this is performance-based. They don't perform, there's no incentive here. We've always been in good shape because it also doesn't start out to them. $1 for them starts out where we left off with Bonfire. So basically, it's like Bonfire is still in our quiver. You know, we're still getting guaranteed the money that we were getting when Bonfire was going. So the first $7,500 comes to us. Their $1 doesn't start until 7501 of generated tax money. So that's a great deal for the village. You know, basically we're sharing with them the amount over where we were. That's a great you know, win-win for both of us. I do think, and we talked about this at CED. The concept looks great. The pictures look great. I'd love to, you know, who wouldn't want to be sitting at that bar and having a great time out? Like Trustee Pasmino said, you know, once the governor lifts these restrictions, hopefully we'll all be able to get around all the bars again. So, you know, I think that it bears repeating that these are great wins for the village. Like you had said, Trustee Rogers, about, you know, these are the ways small towns are competing for even some of these, you know, I don't want to call this a small project by any stretch of the imagination, but typically these things have been to big developers, big boxes, maybe guys who are buying, you know, 60, 80, 100 acres and developing that into a whole big planned use development. Those types of people have staff, no staff, know where to look, and everybody's code and everything, how to find these incentive agreements. So to Trustee Suisse's point about, you know, is this offered to anybody or do they have to find it? They do have to find it. We don't offer it, but, you know, some of those bigger ones, maybe they're a little bit more proficient at that. So that's all I had to say.
I'd just like to add, I applaud you for the design, the concept. You're aggressive in nature and numbers, and I agree. You guys will be accountable for making it perform, so good luck.
We're all looking forward to it. Is there any other comments or concerns? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Cabrio? Aye. Trustee Pasmino?
I have a question for council. Do I have to abstain or?
You're not required to abstain, but if you feel more comfortable abstaining, you can.
Okay. I think it would only be fair. I mean, not officially, yes, but just for the record, I don't want any issues, so I abstain.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backel?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next one. That's Steve. Steve, do we have something here before on you?
I signed in at the beginning and I had this as a topic, and somebody come back later.
Okay, well, we'll take it now, because what it was before was...
I'll keep it short.
Okay.
I am Steve Wood, 16220 Alfred Lane in Homer Glen. I'm also one of the owners for Home Shop. Again, I welcome this restaurant too. We look for more restaurant choices, and I saw the drawings, the renderings. It looks awesome. I can't wait to go when it's open. I guess our concern was when we saw some of the incentive stuff that's there. We have probably significantly less than half of what they have for projections. They have a building that's been vacant for 7 months. Ours was a vacant building for 10 years. And we wouldn't have offered any of these incentives. And I know it is based on sales. We went from a zero base because we were getting nothing in that building. And they're going from a substantial base. I just thought it was kind of disappointing that we weren't given some of that. When we had a lot of the similar build-outs, we took a lot of money out of our pockets to put that in and to make what we created. And anything that would have helped us would have been great too. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Okay. Next would be, is there a motion to approve Parvin-Clauss Sign Company's design build proposed for the Village of Homer Glen's Western Gateway Monument sign at a total cost of $46,607?
I so move.
I'll second.
Gabriel and Trustee Backel. Discussion.
Mayor, I just wanted to note, I have this actual sample of material that I can pass around so the board can see it tonight.
That's a sample of the leaf?
This is a sample of the faux painted Corten steel. So
Matt, do you have anything you can put up so people can see this?
This is faux painting the Corten steel to start out the color that we anticipated it being. Corten steel is supposed to be left out to weather naturally, kind of like a copper roof, where you would get that patina over time. But, you know, the first 20 years you're going to look at a brand new penny. So the sign maker has proposed faux painting this, is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
So that it starts out and continues to remain the way we anticipated it looking.
So the reason for the sample is it does have to deliver the desired look result, and that does mean that there's some artistry to the paint and skill in doing that type of faux painting. So this is Parvin-Clauss that was one of the respondents to our request for design build proposal, and in doing so, instead of actually building it with Corten steel, there were some issues of doing that. The size of the leaf structure would require 2 plates of steel be welded together, and then you have to grind down that seam. And then it weathers over time, and in the first number of years, it goes through kind of an ugly duck sort of a process as it builds up rust and rust flakes off the base of it. Over the long term, that can look really good, but the new process out now is to do a faux painting application on aluminum that achieves the same look and is highly durable over the years. And it was another option that was in our design specifications that came out from our brand design. They did respond, and that was just a sample so that you could see how that works for another project that they're working on right now. And I don't know if Brian Newton is on the line.
Yes, he is.
Okay, in case there's any questions, the representative from Parvin-Clauss is available if you have questions.
I don't have any questions. All I will say is, you know, we've been over this a dozen times, it seems like, but this just, it's going to be beautiful when it's completed. It looks amazing.
I would agree with that, and just for everybody at home and in the audience and online, at least for the foreseeable future, we have a flat rendering of this at 159th and Gauger. It is just a printout on a board, but you can see it, it's real life size, so it was really just for everybody to get an idea of scale and position and, you know, how its prominence there. Once this piece is in place with the masonry and the corten and the wood and the stanchions and the halo lighting, it's really going to be an impactful piece. And I really like the price, to be honest with you. $46,000 is well below what we all had anticipated, and that gives me great hope that maybe we'll be able to expand this a little bit more robustly going forward. You know, I thought we'd be at the upper end of our original budget numbers, and hopefully we can, you know, do a few more of these.
I got one quick, just beyond the 5-year warranty, is there a maintenance, special maintenance requirement on this thing, this material? 8, 9, 10 years out, is there something that we have to pay in addition to maintain it, to continue this look? Do we know?
Brian, did you?
Hi, this is Brian Newton with Parvin-Clauss Signs. Thanks for having me on tonight. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I appreciate being invited to the agenda tonight, albeit spirited. It's been fun. I do appreciate and honor. I'm honored to be a part of this project, and I understand the responsibility of the image, especially putting this out there and upholding your branding. There's not much in the way of maintenance on this sign. A lot of the components that are going on this sign are going to be natural. I think over the course of time, and Jeannie and I spoke at length about this sign. I believe it's positioned south and west. So it's certainly going to get its fair share of sun. That being said, is that these colors are not of pigmentation that you're going to have to worry about fading. You know, your quick fading colors are your purples, your reds, your deeper blues. This is not such that you're going to see that. And because of the texture that's being put on there, the fading that will occur will be less noticeable. And what's going to happen is over the course of time, let's say 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to become more of a tolerance thing. And so at that point, realistically, what you're looking at is potentially a repainting of the leaf, but the leaf itself is going to last longer than all of us will.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Can I just ask one question? I know I'm just the clerk, but I have a question. The copper penny one that we're referring to, or this one that we just passed around, was there a price difference on the two? Or do you know that if there was?
I believe if I'm hearing the question correctly, the natural corten steel versus the sample that's being passed around right now?
Correct.
No, the materials are relatively nominal in terms of the differences between the two, especially at those depths. I think what the biggest thing that's going to come into play here, as Jeannie alluded to a little bit earlier, is that they come in different sizes. So corten steel's standard sizes would be such because of the size of the leaf, at least on the larger ones. We would have to seam two pieces together, and at that thickness, it's going to leave a pretty noticeable welding line. And when that weathers over the course of time, I'm never going to be able to get rid of that. With the aluminum, I don't have to piece it, and I can be more consistent with the overall color and texture. So, there's not much of a price difference. It's really going to come down to an overall appearance difference.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Caprio? Aye. Trustee Pazmino? Aye. Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Bacco? Aye. Trustee Rogers?
No.
And Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Was that an aye?
Yes. Barely an aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve an amended and restated intergovernmental agreement by and between the Village of Homer Glen and the Homer Township Road District?
I'll second.
Trustee Gray, Trustee Backo. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, if you could take a few moments, I'd like to kind of walk everyone through how we got here tonight. I know there's some questions during the earlier public hearing that we could answer some of those questions now since we're on this topic of the amended and restated IGA. And I also like to focus on just some changes that have occurred that's in the current agreement from where we started when we had those public informational meetings back in the fall as well. So first I'd like to start by saying that the discussions with the Road District Commissioner, Mike DeVivo, and between the village began in earnest last spring. And in July was when the village board and the village announced publicly to our residents of the village that we were going to begin the process of having the discussions about the transferring of stewardship of the road district to the village of Homer Glen. Subsequent to that announcement in July, the board had their first board meeting to discuss this on September 23rd. And you guys adopted a resolution to set additional public meetings and to begin communicating in a very transparent way with the residents of both the village, but also the residents of unincorporated Homer Township, as well as the residents who reside in New Lenox and Lockport. You held those two meetings on October 6th and October 12th of this past fall, where we presented a PowerPoint presentation. We invited the various impacted governmental entities, as well as all the residents within the overall Homer Township area, geographic area, to come and to understand why this was being proposed and how we thought that this could be accomplished. Subsequent to that date, then we began working on the actual transfer agreements. In addition to that, during that same time was when the Township Board chose to place a referendum on the ballot to determine whether the road district assets and responsibilities of the road district would be transferred to the actual Township Board. And as everyone knows in this room and listening, that referendum was defeated by a large spread majority. As well, during that time, we began to do additional outreach to all of our residents. We sent out our fall newsletter that had a whole part of that newsletter dedicated to what this meant. We had frequently asked questions that were included in that newsletter. We posted all the information on the village's website, and we continued to have dialogue with the impacted governmental entities, including the Homer Township Board, and including New Lenox and the village of Lockport as well. So tonight we sit here before you is the actual amended and restated IGA with the Homer Township Road District. Before we get into the details of that agreement, I would like to share again, for the benefit of our public, some statistics and facts. So the first thing that I think is important for everyone to understand is what are we really talking about when we talk about roads and transfer of stewardship. And I want to remind everyone that there are 233 total miles of road within the overall Homer Township. The breakdown of those road miles are 135 of those are owned by the village of Homer Glen and its residents and property owners. 48 of those miles are owned by the village of Lockport, and 18 of those miles are located in the unincorporated Homer Township and are owned by the township. In addition to that, there are 2.88 miles of roads in New Lenox that are owned by New Lenox, but also in the township. And then there are the remaining 29 roads that are under the jurisdiction of either IDOT, Will County, and we have a few private roads that no one takes care of those because they take care of them themselves. So when you look at those numbers, the road district as it sits today maintains the 135 miles of our roads, as well as the 18 miles of the unincorporated roads. They do not maintain any of the other ones that I listed. And if you go a little bit further into this, that maintenance basically is 100% of those 135 miles that the village of Orland Park owns is all under the authority and control of the township. That means that the budget, the expenditures, as well as how the roads are taken care of or maintained or plowed, all that, you as a village board and our residents do not have a say in that, because that is all done through an IGA by the road district, and also the expenditures and the funding and levies are controlled by the township board itself. So when we're talking about the transfer of stewardship, we're also talking about taking back those 135 roads that are owned by the village of Homer Glen and the residents and property owners, and having a control over the future of how those roads are taken care of and well into the future. So as we talk about the financing, one of the things, and a lot of this information was shared in those 2 informational meetings that we had back in the fall, and all that information is still on our website today. The PowerPoint presentation that we did, we even put that on our Channel 6 News. So we tried to be as open as possible with everyone so they knew exactly what we were talking about. The Mike DeVivo's budget for this past year, which is basically the 2 line items that are on the tax bill, totaled about $4.3 million. And that is what he used to fund the operations of the road district on an annual basis. And in terms of the breakdown of the funding, just to remind everyone, is of that funding, 73% of that funding comes from our village of Homer Glen residents and our property owners. The majority, the other remaining amount, 19% of that comes from Lockport, and 8% of that comes from the unincorporated Homer Township residents, and then a small percentage, less than 1, comes from New Lenox. So when you're talking about how the road district operations are funded, that's how it's funded. So as part of the agreement that we have tonight, there was a lot of discussion during the past 6 months on what would happen to those 18 miles. The village board had offered to the township to take care of those for free as a way to completely remove any future taxing of the Homer Township Road District from the tax bills forever. However, since that time, with additional feedback and input from the Homer Township Board, who indicated that they wanted to keep control of those 18 miles, what you have in your agreement tonight is still an 18-mile road district. We are not eliminating the road district. We are not taking over the maintenance of the road district for those 18 miles of unincorporated roads. In fact, the agreement that's before you tonight will still keeps in place that. And that was, again, a change that was made from where we started with additional input from the impacted stakeholders. In addition, we have had meetings, the mayor, myself, and others, with the village of Lockport, and they are in agreement with this transfer. They are in agreement with the concept, and they also understand that while they are a vested stakeholder, we can enter into a separate IGA with them to make sure that their vested ownership in the road district is accounted for fairly. So what you have tonight before you is a transfer agreement that basically amends and restates the original IGA that we had with the Homer Township back in 2003. And what this does is this replaces that one. And what it does is it flips it. Instead of them taking control of the roads and them doing the financing from here on out, the village of Homer Glen will do that. They will keep their 18 miles. They will continue to take care of those 18 miles. There's provisions within this agreement for a lease for them to have space. There's provisions of equipment to stay behind and still take care of the 18 miles. They will keep staff behind for the 18 miles, and then we will enter into that agreement with them where we continue to work together. If we need to share equipment, we'll share equipment with them. But all those provisions are part of this agreement as it sits today. That is a big change from where we were back in the fall, where we said, you know what, we will just agree to take care of those 18 miles and be done with it. That was not what they wanted, and therefore the village board recognized as their legal right, respected that right to do that, and therefore, under this proposal, the road district will remain, and they will continue to take care of those 18 miles of unincorporated roads. So what does that mean for the village? What that means moving forward is that with this agreement, we will take control of our 135 roads. The surplus property that will be left over, because they will no longer be taking care of ours, and the property and the equipment that they keep is listed in this agreement as well. We will take that surplus property and we will use it to develop and create our first public works department for the village. And we will do that and we will fund that on an annual basis. We will fund it this the first year. The reason why we're here tonight talking about a $1.5 million levy is because state statute requires that any taxing body who is going to do a levy must have it done this year. It must be filed with the clerk before the last weekend of the year. That's why we're here talking about this tonight. So originally, we had proposed that all of the road district's funding sources would completely be eliminated from the tax bill. Now that there's going to be an 18-mile road district that still exists, that number that is currently on everyone's tax bill will go down significantly because of that. But that will not happen until next year. And what we will do over time is we'll pick up that reduction, and that will shift over to our line item on the tax bill, which currently is at 0. Tonight, what is proposed before you is adoption of a $1.5 million levy. That is the actual realized dollars that we will receive next year. And that is much less than what we originally proposed back in the fall. But what we do believe, and I have John Sirius here tonight, is with the $1.5 million combined with the road commissioner's levy that before, remember, under the current IGA, we would take that money that we would get, our 50% share, and we would sign that check over to Mike for him to take care of the roads. This coming June in 2021, we will not be giving that money to the road district. We will keep it. That money combined with this 1.5 will give us a $3 million budget for the first year of operation for the Public Works Department. If there is a gap needed when we develop our budget in the spring, we will fill that gap with either motor fuel tax or other revenue streams that we have available to us. So that's how the first year of the budget will go. In addition to this transfer doesn't happen tonight. We don't become the owners of the road district tomorrow when we wake up. What it means is it sets out the path forward by which time we will complete the title transfers. We will continue to work with the staff to have them rehire. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that still have to be done to get this where it needs to be. But the deadline in this agreement sets March 31st of 2021, when the closing will occur, and we will actually have our Public Works Department in place. I'm available to answer any questions you have. I don't know, Eric, if there's anything that you want to add to that. Again, I just want to repeat, this is not something that has not been discussed in the public realm. It has been. There has been numerous meetings about it. There have been numerous communications about it with all the impacted stakeholders.
That was a fantastic job of describing it, Gary. The only thing I would just point out in terms of highlighting when you look through the agreement, obviously you're going to see the sales contract for the property that the road district is transferring to us. You're going to see a lease of the property that we're going to turn around and lease back a portion of the building to the road district. Those documents that are in there they can be modified. I didn't want you to think like, here's this document that's set in stone. They can be modified as long as they are still complying with the intent of this agreement. So those are going to come later. Those will come up at the March closing when those documents are actually executed. But other than that, you covered everything.
So Carrie, I have a couple questions. What exactly was the referendum that the township put forward?
I think there was a gentleman at the earlier public meeting who read it verbatim. I think that was Mr. Walters, and that was what they put forward. They put forward a referendum basically saying that the road district would transfer the responsibilities and rights of the road district would transfer to the township board. So that doesn't mean that they wouldn't continue to take care of the roads. It just means that the road commissioner position would have been eliminated, and all the rights, obligations, and responsibilities would then transfer 100% to the township board, the elected township board. That was the referendum that was defeated. I will tell you that that referendum was put on the ballot after we shared and met with the township, and it told them this is what we wanted to move forward on, by the way, jointly with them.
And what was the voting outcome from the residents percentage-wise? What was the vote?
I want to say it was close to 60-40.
Okay.
5641, yeah, all right, 44. But yeah, it was pretty resounding defeat. I would tell you also that after that referendum was placed on the ballot, the township board did go on record at one of their public meetings and did authorize the initiation of litigation against both the village of Homer Glen as well as the Township Road District. And I will also share tonight for the public that we were served today a lawsuit to stop this from going forward from the township.
So who's paying for that?
The residents of the township, all of us.
This was brought forward by the township.
Yes, and we were served today.
So who, I just had a couple more. I'm sorry, Carl, I just have a couple more. So Carrie, who is paid for all of the equipment and property of the highway department?
The equipment, as I indicated earlier, when you look at the breakdown, you can look at it any way you want to. You can look at who has a majority of ownership of the roads, or you could have it who has a majority ownership of who has funded the road district all these years. And without a doubt, both of those questions it is the Village of Homer Glen residents and property owners who have. By not a small margin, but by huge margins. There are residents and our property owners own the road district. They are the majority stakeholder in the road district today, and they have been ever since a corporation.
20 years.
Yes.
I'm done.
I just had a quick one for you, Carrie, and I'm hoping you can eloquently explain this, but what's our alternate solution if we decide not to have a public works department levy this tax and snow flies in January of 2022 and we don't have our own department?
The problem we have is you don't have control of your own future destiny. So right now we have an IGA that can be terminated by any party within 1 year notice. So that means that you have, let's say you have a whole new slate of people who are elected, whether that's the road district or whether it's the township board. And whoever sits in those seats can give notice to the village 1 year, and that gives us 1 year to create a public works department from the ground up. We have completed appraisals for the value of the asset. I'm calling the road district the asset. So that includes the property that it sits on. It includes the equipment. It includes everything, personal property, equipment, everything. So the value of the road district today, and we had appraisals done because that was a fair thing to do, totals $4.2 million. That's everything. So if you were going to create a new public works department from the very ground up, and you had less than a year to do that, you would have to go out and buy land. You'd have to build a building. You have to build a salt dome. You have to buy dump trucks. You'd have to buy all the equipment. You have to hire the staff. All that would cost well over $4.2 million. So really what you're doing is you're saving money, because by doing the transfer of stewardship, we're saying it is not fair for our residents and our property owners to pay twice for an asset that they already own and they already paid for once.
I actually had a statement and
Roman, can you speak into your microphone, please?
All right, statement and a question, or actually clarification. And this is where I think a lot of people are confused because there's just so much information flying back and forth. On that referendum in question, the vote was to either, correct me if I'm wrong, and we stated it before, I just want to be really clear, dissolve the road district and transfer that power over to the township, correct?
Yes, correct.
Since it was defeated and the people overwhelmingly did not want that, it just basically went back to the way it was. Nothing happened at that point. It was still the road district. Nothing transferred. No taxes were raised. None of that. Everything just kind of went back to the way it was.
Right, and in this agreement, Trustee Hasmino, there is still going to be an 18-mile road district. Yeah.
That's currently under the same contract.
Well, we don't have anything to do with the 18 miles because that's unincorporated.
Gotcha.
So how
But it's still being serviced.
Yeah, serviced by the same entity.
Gotcha. So nothing's really changed. Everything's kind of back to the way it's been for a while. Okay. So my next question, assuming, and I'm just looking at all the different outlets here because, this is new for me. It's new for a lot of people. Once again, we need to be extremely clear on this. Assuming, you know, the township decides never to, you know what, we don't want to deal with you guys, go away, okay? We still do have that lag contract that we're looking at now that kind of holds us over for about a year, right? But like you said, they have to give us a year notice, or they have to give us till after that year's over. Okay. So at that point, assuming, because right away we hit the red alert, we're like, well, we got to build a brand new public works, we need the silos, we need the trucks, we need the staff, the pensions, we need everything, right? $4 million. Or, I'm just throwing this out there because we're looking for options. What if we were to, let's say, and again, I get the whole control your own destiny, that type of thing. You know, my whole thing is the whole rush into it. Is it an option to bid out to Lockport, Orland, Lamont, for them to do it for us because they already have all the equipment, they already have all this infrastructure, maybe their prices are competitive. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
I can't answer that question because I don't know, but I can tell you, I think there was someone who said at the public hearing that I was a village manager who was fired from Orland Park, which is not true, by the way. But I did come from Orland Park, and I was a director and assistant village manager there for 15 years. And I can tell you that they're the same square mileage, 22 square miles as Homer Glen is, believe it or not. And they have a very large public works department with a lot of staff, a lot of silos, a lot of trucks. And I can tell you there's no way on earth that they would take on basically another community of the same size. They would have to buy more equipment. They'd have to do the same things that you have to do. You'd have to have a satellite location just in terms of just doing the snow routes and logistics of that. So I would say that would be extremely, I do not think that is a feasible option. I do appreciate the conversation about it. But the cost, they would still have to do all those things that you would still have to do. And you would still be reliant on another governmental entity for the taking care of your roads, which you are today. So it really doesn't change the situation, in my opinion. But again, at the end of the day, that's a public policy decision that you collectively, you guys are elected by the residents, not me. Well, you guys have to decide what is the best public policies to make going forward for the benefit of today and tomorrow for your residents that you serve.
And you know, you make a good point, real quick, sorry, about
microphone,
please. If you were going to try and hire one of those, I'm sorry. You make a good point about the surrounding communities, but if you were going to try and hire one of those, Lockport was involved in these discussions. You would think that Lockport would have said, we would love to plow your streets at a certain cost.
Yeah, I mean,
They didn't offer it, I'm assuming. So.
They didn't, but you know, those costs, you still have to add staff, you still have to add equipment, there'd be a cost associated with that. Just like we pay the full carrying cost of the sheriff's contract, those would be passed on to the village, for sure.
Well, I think one other thing to your point, trustee, is that we're also missing the overall, in your scenario, if the township said, hey, we don't want you anymore, that kind of thing. So now the township is sitting there with $4+ million worth of equipment and land to manage 18 miles of road. That's it. That does not seem cost efficient either. I think that's why we said that this is a win-win. It's a situation where everybody does benefit, and also there's a situation where there's no, I don't want to say a bad outcome, but it's a benefit for everyone. Because otherwise, what's the township going to do with all that property and equipment?
You also have to remember too that those residents who live in Lockport and also reside in the township, they are in an unfair situation. They are currently being taxed to take care of roads that are in the village. I mean, that is a factual statement. That's why there's a desire from the village officials of Lockport to fix this once and for all. Because when we're able to do this and their levy goes down to just those 18 miles of, which is a much lower cost, then now Lockport doesn't have to worry about their residents and their property owners being unfairly taxed, which they are today, and they have been for many years.
And I'm sorry, I was next. I'm sorry about that.
No.
Not too rude, I'm sorry. And thank you very much. I just want to let you know that a lot of these questions are questions that I'm being asked. You know, I meet people every day. I own a restaurant, hundreds of people, and they ask me, what the heck's going on over there? I'm reading this, I'm reading that. So I'm putting forward every single scenario
that we could possibly think of. That way, it is truly transparent. We've answered all the questions. And it's a great point that you brought up just now when you asked that, you know, that unincorporated piece is getting a raw deal. We get it, you know. And I want to see everybody happy. That's part of my problem. I try to make everybody happy. And guys, in politics, it doesn't happen.
Well, I will say this. I think that the fact that you have these questions, you have an engaged community, is a good thing. This is a big decision for the village. Every one of you knows that. I mean, this is a big decision. And we recognize that this is growing pains in some ways, right? I mean, 20 years. If you look at, for example, the village of Lemont, how old are they? They were incorporated in 1823. 1823. We were incorporated in 2001. I mean, when you look at where we're at in our life cycle, and where our surrounding communities are in their life cycle, it's apples and oranges and bananas. I mean, it's an exciting time, I think, to be in Homer Glen. Yes, there are growing pains. I do believe, though, and I honestly do believe this, that when we actually end up having our public works department, and we're already thinking about efficiencies, we're thinking about cost savings, we're thinking about, you know, we have our parks guys where they're getting their CDLs this season so they can be backup snowplow drivers. You know, there are so many things that you can do when you do this type of merger and creating a public works department from the very beginning that over time can result in efficiencies, better customer service for our residents and our property owners and our businesses, and also over time, and I'm hopeful that we're able to continue to bring the cost down. This first year is going to be, we don't know what we don't know. That's why we're very fortunate. I think there was another gentleman during the public hearing testimony that said, we are very fortunate to have at our disposal a variety of revenue sources that a township government does not have by right. They do not get MFT money. They do not have sales tax money. They do not have home rule. They don't have all those things that you as a board have at your disposal that you can continue to look at as we move forward and we figure out what this looks like at the end. And say, okay, this is better here. We should do this here. We should merge these departments together. We should cross-train here. There's a lot of things that we can do in the next 12 to 24 months that I think the community will be very proud when they see it.
There's something else I want to mention, and you brought it up, Carrie, and I think that I'm not sure if the residents know this. We've talked about it at nauseum at our meetings, and even at the two public meetings that we had. And that is that there's a section of Lockport that has really been, for lack of a better term, they've been screwed. They've been paying taxes to us, to the road department, and we were not plowing their roads because it wasn't part of what we were, that wasn't one of our responsibilities.
Right, Lockport is doing it.
And Mike DeVivo, and I could be, I want to make sure I get the numbers right. He's in the back, and I'm sure he'll chastise me if I get it wrong. But it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $700,000, Mike, that has been paid back to Lockport. Yeah, $700,000 that he's currently been paying back over time to Lockport.
I have a seat here for him, and all this time I've been wondering where he's been, and he's been in the back of the room.
And I also want to bring up another point about what Mike has done. And when I say Mike, I'm talking about his entire crew. And this goes to the situation if we wanted to farm this out to another municipality to come in or another service to come in and plow our roads. Mike and his guys know every inch of every road in Homer Township, Homer Village. And for instance, you know, this situation right over here at 151st where you go down the hill. Mike's guys know that they put beet juice on that prior to a snowstorm, prior to a temperature change, because they know that salt enough isn't going to be enough for that particular road. They know all these little secrets about all these little issues that we have, flooding issues. They know to get there early on a heavy rain because they know that this area is going to flood. Someone coming in from another village or another entity to work on these problems for us would never know these things until they had done it for years. And maybe even many years before they'd figure out some of the little things that Mike and his guys have curtailed, found these problems, solved these problems, troubleshot all these issues, and are ahead of the snowstorms, ahead of the ice storms. This is something that is invaluable.
And here's one other thing that people don't know. If the township decides to take this over, they can't tax just Homer Glen. They tax Lockport, they tax New Lenox, they tax Levant, and they tax Homer Township. So we're right back to where we started, to where money was being taken from people from Lockport and not being spent there. So, and there's no way around it, it's just the way the state set it up. That's why we said that we would make sure that we make Lockport solid. And as for some of the other things that were mentioned in here before, we're trying. We're trying as hard as we can to get together with the township and be able to work something out as a team rather than going against each other. So when you have some questions that you would ask up there, we wanted to wait till at least you got an opportunity to see what we're going through and how it's happening. When we tried getting everyone together for this thing, I've never talked to the village or to the township board yet. So they have no idea what we're trying to do. And we've been trying to sit down with them so everyone can get together and make this work. You know, this COVID has turned a lot of people into nutcases, very unhappy, suicidal. We shouldn't be doing this. We should all have a smile on our face and work together. That's how this all comes together. So, as for questions, with you being in Lockport, call me anytime you want. We'll fill you in on it. We'll get you all the information that we know. Yeah.
Is it unincorporated?
Well,
I've asked my questions. I asked you then. Can I ask the question again now? For the same answer. Mike's sitting here. Let's get the answer.
We'll get to all this stuff.
Yeah. Never was answered before. You tried to answer it and it didn't get answered. Thank you. I'll rest my face. I'll be quiet. It's your meeting.
What question did you have?
I think the question was, when did the timing, when did the conversation start?
And you
answered it on your end, but I've been going to those meetings and we never heard boo about it in Homer Township end.
You didn't hear boo about it because they didn't want to discuss it.
What's the question?
Exactly.
I'll answer the question. What's the question?
I want to hold on 1 second here.
I said I'm resting my case. It's your meeting. I'm being quiet.
I also,
respect it.
Mike, I would read, thank you, Mr. Trustee Gray. I didn't realize when you said your name, I believe he's one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit, so I don't want to get in a situation where we're making comments. I just want to make sure.
Okay.
I had a couple questions. Why aren't we having this conversation in December of 2021? Why does it have to be today?
Because the people are asking, we have residents that want to know. And I've been asked questions.
No.
Asked for this meeting.
Ruben,
Yeah.
I'm talking to Carrie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Why are we not trying to pass this in December of 2021? Everybody's like, what's a hurry? Why do we have to do it now? Why are we not doing this? Why do we have to do this now?
Well,
You
state
know, a
statute
lot of
mandates
people
it.
today said, why can't we wait a year? Let's wait for COVID.
We won't have a funding source if we don't. So
I'm just asking so you can explain that.
So the reason why we have to do it now is because state statute dictates it. So you have to have your levy set this year for next year now. And so we have to file that levy, that $1.5 million that we need to collect to fund the partial operations of the Public Works Department. We have to do that now. We don't have a choice. That's no different than any other municipal government in the entire state of Illinois. If they're going to do a levy, they have to have it filed in December. If we wait until next year to do that, we will be at a whole year. And we won't be able to do it again until next December 2021. We cannot do that because then we won't have a funding source for the transfer. And so that's what this $1.5 million provides, coupled with the $1.5 million that approximately we're going to keep and not give to the road district that I mentioned earlier. And if we have to supplement it with some additional funds, we will do that for the first year.
I have a comment on that. Trustee Rogers made a good point. And it was my thing all along, why don't you just strengthen the IGA for 2021? Mr. DeVivo does his levy like he does, like nothing was changed. and then we look at this and do, if this goes through and people get more aware of it, do the levy in December 2021 for 2022. And in the meantime, he does his whole thing for
The problem
this year.
there's a whole new group there.
Yeah, but you got an IGA that's good for a year. If you strengthen the IGA.
But you don't know that.
They didn't
We're
want to
gonna
do
honor
that.
that.
We don't know.
Wait, who's, what do you mean they didn't want to do that?
No, you don't know if the new, whoever the powers to be will be in the township, you don't know whether they're going to continue to do that or not. And they chose not to do that. You have less than a year.
No, but you're not doing it with a certain person. You're doing it with a township. You're doing it with a highway department. You're not doing it, okay, if this person is not going to be there, the IGA is gone.
Well, yeah. Well, who authorizes the IGA, Trustee Swees? It's the board, the elected board members.
And if they decide to change it, they can change it. It's no different than here. Next group comes in, they can change whatever they want.
You're talking about the current IGA having the 1 year, correct?
Right, or strengthening it to have it at least 2 years or something.
But
We've also heard-
the point is that if you're in favor of this, there's no guarantee that could be done next year anyway. If you're the transfer of stewardship, if there's a new election, if there's a new board, if whatever happens, that's the unknown that we're worried about to begin with. Not just canceling the contract, but it's also the idea that, hey, this is something that we think is a good policy, this is something good for the village and for the township and for Lockport, all the citizens. And if we don't move forward with it now, there's no guarantee that we will be able to move forward next year.
Doesn't mean that the people that came in behind us would do what we're going to do. We're trying to make everyone solid.
We've also heard allegations from the township board, the township supervisor, the township's legal counsel saying that the village has historically and continually not paid our fair share. They continue to allege that we are only paying half, that we're getting some sort of sweetheart deal from the township road commissioner. All of those things are false, but those are premises that they're continuing to go forward with. So the township supervisor has publicly stated that she thinks that the village is not paying its fair share. Because you want to get into a continued IGA with somebody who is more than likely going to want to rewrite that and up the cost for the village of Homer Glen. That's where we're going to be. Again, we'll have no control over it. We'll have them controlling it, and we'll have them dictating the price to us then.
So basically, this that's up right now for discussion is the same IGA agreement that we had last year? Nothing's changed?
No, actually, this is a completely new IGA. This replaces that IGA. That's why it says amended and restated intergovernmental agreement by and between the Village of Homer Glen and the Homer Township Road District. It sets the final transfer date, which is called the commencement date in the actual agreement, to be March 31st of 2020. Now, so that would be what actually would happen. But since we were served with a lawsuit today, we have to go through the courts. So this is something that is going to be heard at the Will County Court now, and the decision will be made by a judge whether this is something that can be legally done or not. We are very confident that we are a very solid precedent and case law that we can do this, and that this is provided in the state statutes, period. But they have chosen to file suit against us, and we will defend that suit.
Can you go over really quick, so the difference between the last IGA and this one is the fact that this one right here ties in the new village levy, or no?
No, that's a separate item, that's the next item.
So
this is basically just saying that we're entering into a new IGA with the Homer Township Road District, and what that will happen is that there will be an 18-mile, unincorporated 18-mile road district that will remain behind. Those are the exhibits that you have in your agreement. It shows the equipment that's remaining. There's an exhibit that shows the parcel of the property that the road district will continue to use. And then everything else, the surplus idle equipment that they no longer need because they're not taking care of 135 additional miles, will be deeded and transferred to the Village of Homer Glen. The property will be deeded and transferred at a closing to the Village of Homer Glen. And then in that process, we will then continue to work with Mr. DeVivo and his staff to have his employees be terminated and rehired by the Village of Homer Glen. This lays out the path forward to do that with the final closing date of March 31st, 2021. This does not have anything to do with the $1.5 million tax levy, although obviously you need a funding source to fund a public works department. That's your next item before the board for consideration.
One thing you left out of that was also, not only does it carve out an 18-mile road district and it turns over the other assets to the Village of Homer Glen, but it also then the Village of Homer Glen will continue to work with like the City of Lockport to make them, figure out what equity they need to be compensated for.
Right, so we've already began those conversations, the mayor and myself. We have met with them. They are aware of this. They are in agreement to enter into an IGA with the village on their fair share for their stakeholders. We were waiting on the appraisals to be completed, which they have now been completed. So we will continue to negotiate with both New Lenox and with the Village of Lockport on that, and those IGAs will come back to this board for approval.
Another thing I heard a lot of tonight was, this 1.5 million, why can't we find it somewhere else? Why can't we, instead of building an actual parking lot out there, or building an amphitheater out there, right, take this money, this 1.5, and do it there? Use that money.
But that's a one-time hit, right? So what you need for a public works department is you need a continual funding source for it. The funding source for the road district has been property taxes forever. That was the only option they've had. So that's not changing. The only difference is it's going to be us doing the levy versus a road district, and the road district amount over time is going to be less. So yeah, you're right. So let's say you wanted to take $1.5 million from the savings, like say for example, and John, step in there if you want to. That's a one-time hit. You still are going to come back next year and need the money. The Public Works Department is a recurring cost. You have to pay for the supplies, you have to pay for the gasoline, you have to pay for the salt, you have to pay for the employees. That is not a one-time thing. That is not one-time expense. That is not a one-time capital expense, where you do it one day and you never have to go back and worry about for another 10 to 20 years. These are recurring operating expenses. So whether you do that today, tomorrow, or a year from now, it doesn't change the fundamental principle that you have to still do it. You will still have to do it.
Carrie, is it accurate, once the stewardship transfer, if it were to happen and when it happens, this IGA becomes null and void?
There are portions of it that continue on. The lease, and those things that set out the sharing of equipment and resources, reasonable sharing of those things, those survive the closing date. Everything else, yes, you're right, it goes away once the transfer is done.
Do we still take care of the 18 miles of township roads?
No, we will not, and neither will no, we will not be taking care of those. The road district will remain.
I think some points of clarification that need to be made that seem to be, there's a lot of people who are unhappy with the way that referendum was worded, and I think most of us in this room as well. And the village did not write that referendum. That was not our referendum, and I think that it is important that that gets out there. This was not our referendum. That referendum was worded by the township. So there's
worded by the state.
By the state, but I mean through the township though. That had nothing to do with us. That was theirs. Our vote, our push to vote no was very clear in that there would be costs involved. And that was always transparent the entire time for anybody, elected officials, those trying to run now, to sit here and say, I knew nothing about this. Nobody said there was going to be extra money if we took it over. That's not right. You sat at workshops, you voted on it. If you voted no on it, you knew through all of the meetings that we've had, and yeah, it was a quick process because it started in September and went to here, but there's no village out there that's more transparent than we are. You can go and look on the website, you can look anywhere and you'll see that we were always very clear that this wasn't just a flip. And we had that conversation here. And we've had it in public meetings. There's been no private, secret meetings where we're like, well, we're gonna do this and then we're gonna slide in this extra money. That wasn't always the case. So I think it's important that that be out there too. One of the things that you said tonight that was bothering me was, well, if we have to share equipment with the township, we'll do that. Well, there's not gonna be no sharing here. We're not cuddling up again after they're suing us with a lawsuit today. I mean, it's just, I don't understand how you think this is gonna be a kumbaya.
Well, there's an exhibit in the agreement, I believe it's Exhibit D, that lists out the equipment that stays behind. There's 2 dump trucks that are staying behind. And there's also equipment then that they will have access to. And that's listed very specifically in this agreement before you tonight. And so anything outside of that, like if they have to buy gasoline from us or things like that, they'll have to pay for those things. Just like today, we pay for those things. So those things still will have to be paid for by the road district. Whoever the road district commissioner is at the time, those things will still have to be paid for. But there is a small list, it's not a large list. The entire asset is included in your packet too tonight. If you look at the list of equipment, you can see the value. It's over $2 million of equipment that currently is in existence there, which will be surplus. They will not need $2 million worth of equipment for 18 miles of roads. And this is what makes this almost like such common sense, is because then what do you do with that surplus equipment? Do you sell it? Do you make us buy it again for the very same residents who already bought it once? That's ludicrous. It just doesn't make any sense for that. That's a flawed argument. So if there's any other questions, but I hope that answered your question too. But so it's not like they're going to be able to come into our building and pick whatever they want to, use it whenever they want to. That's not the case. But there are certain things that are listed in the agreement. Things that will stay with them and the title will not change, and the things that additional list of other equipment that it makes, like a street sweeper. Those are very expensive, like $500,000 to purchase, or probably more, I think. They already have one. So if they want to use the street sweeper to sweep their 18 miles of roads for once every season, of course we would allow them to use those things, because it doesn't make sense for them to go out and buy one of their own.
All right, here, we got to start getting this wrapped up, because we've got an executive session.
I have a question.
We have an executive session and we're going to go into it.
No, I'm sorry, I think I should be able to ask a question on the numbers.
What numbers?
Well, Carrie had presented about the $4.3 million, and 73% of it comes from the village, 19% comes from Lockport, and 8% comes from the unincorporated area. If you do the math on the 4.3 million and 73%, that's $3,139,000. If we're doing the transfer, as if you stated, the line item, the taxes that the village residents pays to the Homer Highway Department would be approximately the $32 million. Is that correct?
Not 32.
I mean, not 32 million. I'm sorry, $3.2 million. Correct.
With Mike's addition.
Right. So Lockport would be responsible for 817,000.
809. I have the actual breakdown numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if the numbers are transferring over, if the residents are already paying that tax, then what is the $57 increase per $100,000?
Because it's spread over a smaller geographic area. When we do our tax, we can only tax our residents.
I understand that, but only 817,000 or whatever you said, 809,000 is coming from the Lockport.
Well, there's also another 336 coming from an unincorporated Homer Township, and there's another 20.
Right, but we're not maintaining the roads anymore, so they're going to be paying for their own.
But we won't have that money. That's funding the road district right now.
So it's approximately the 1.5 million is what you're saying.
Yeah. You add those together.
And that's
because those monies are still going to fund our roads.
And it's still the $57?
We think so. So here's the deal, is we don't get to set the rate. What we do is we file an ordinance, which we're going to file here before the end of the year, with the Will County. And we say we need to receive $1.5 million monies. And so what they do is they take that and they spread it over the overall equalized assessed valuation of the entire village, which is $1 billion. That's what our current value of properties in the entire village is. And they will then come up with what that rate will be to get us the yield of $1.5 million. And depending on what that is and what the value of the EAV is will determine what that dollar amount is. So it could be $50, it could be less, it could be slightly more. We won't know because we don't know what their new EAV is going to be for next year. And we won't know that until the spring. So what happens then is they send us in the spring a certification that we have to sign off on. And it says, here's your $1.5 million, Village, that you're going to get. And here's what your rate is. And once we know that, then we will know exactly what that dollar amount is. And then they'll tell us to certify it. And so we will either certify it, yes, we want 1.5, or no, we want less, but you can never ask for more after you make the vote.
I understand it. I just want one more question. How much do we collect a year from the motor fuel tax, approximately?
John, that would be your answer.
Well, we get around 500,000. They just added a new one. It's called the Renewable Fund. That's another 400. So about 900,000 annually. Now, not all of the street department is MFT qualified. You couldn't use 100% of the MFT. Well, you could probably.
There's a lot of restrictions on it.
It's a very expensive way to use your MFT allotment. It's probably not an advisable way to do it. You should do it on road improvements.
I was just asking due to the 1.5 million, instead of, asking for the tax levy, is there another way to bring funds, maybe through the motor fuel tax or through another taxing?
As Kerry said, one time, because you're going to have that gap, you're going to have that shortage.
But you're saying the motor fuel tax is every year.
Well, you want to do road expansion, you're going to have big road projects that you're going to need to fund with MFT dollars.
Capital improvement, it's almost always used for capital improvement. The state of Illinois puts a lot of restrictions on the use of MFT funds. I could buy salt with it, but I would have to prove it was an emergency. I mean, you can't use it to buy equipment. I mean, there's a lot of restrictions on the use of MFT funds. Most people use them for capital improvement projects because that's what they qualify for.
Okay.
Like our ring road, we built that with MFT funds.
An intersection like that.
Yes.
All right, could you please call the roll for number 8?
Hold on, I gotta check where I started class. Trustee Suisse.
I want to say no.
Trustee Caprio.
Aye.
Trustee Pasmino.
No.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Backel.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20-059, ordinance for the levy of the collection of taxes for the Village of Homer Glen, Will County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2020, and ending April 30th, 2021?
I so move.
Trustee Suisse.
I'll second.
Trustee Backel. Discussion.
I like the way that Carrie explained it, because I think that's what I was hearing a lot, is why aren't we using this, why, we need 1.5 million, why aren't we not building a slip and slide, or why aren't we not doing something else? And the way that you explained it is perfect, because that is a source of revenue that needs to be continued to come in. When you say, let's say you talk about this gap, and if there's a gap, and how much can you raise this before having to come back here and have the same conversation?
A whole year, you gotta wait.
Okay, and then let's say in a whole year you say, oh my gosh, we didn't realize that we need 3 million. You're gonna have to do this again, right?
Well, we hope not, because we're gonna get the 1.5 from the share that we're not giving back to Mike, and we know that Mike's budget is a little over $4 million a year. So, but we're gonna have to really tighten it up, the budget, but I think we will have time to do that over the course of the next year. I do truly believe, and I wouldn't say if I didn't believe it, there will be efficiencies gained, and there are things that we can do together collectively by joining the two organizations together that can result in cost savings.
I know, I think one of the concerns is people are like, oh, once you put this out there and you're saying, okay, it's only gonna be $57 for my house, or, $140 14 for my house, whatever your house's average. I think I saw in the comprehensive plan, most of the houses here are 300, so we have that number, call it 150 per house, or whatever the case may be. I think the concern is some people will go, oh, that number's gonna keep going up, it's gonna keep going up, it's gonna keep going up. What I'm trying to tell people is that at least at this board level, we have proven that to be completely the opposite. We are very fiscally responsible. We've come in under budget on pretty much everything. We have zero debt. We're not somebody that is not a pattern that we've shown in the 8 or however many years it's been now that we've done that here. That's not something you're going to see. I think that the 1.5 is you're being conservative because you don't want that number to come in at, you don't want to ask for 1 and it come in at 1.5. I think 1.5 is your high number. That's that's the extreme. That's what you say, honey, can I have some shoes? Okay, here's $100, but you better not spend $100. Come back with some change. And I think that that's kind of what they're looking at.
And I do want to echo that from a staff perspective because I think that this board, this village has been extremely frugal for the past 20 years. And the fact that you paid off your debt early and you were able to save hundreds of thousands of dollars just this past year, you have an outstanding credit rating. I mean, you have, you scrutinize every single expenditure that comes through. Every single expenditure is on our website. I can't think of a board that I've ever worked for in my career where you has been more transparent and more conservative in how you expend the taxpayers' money.
I just want to touch on this. Taxing for the sake of a tax is wrong in any situation, and I'm a conservative, and I'm going to say this loud and proud. But if the value that you're getting is greater than the tax that you're paying, you are well ahead of the game. And I'm going to tell you that there is no village or any board that's been more fiscally responsible than we have. And I would suggest that a no vote for this is doing every resident a disservice. And here's why. First off, we've held a number of meetings, 2 meetings, and we've been as transparent as possible about what the village is doing, what it would cost, and most importantly, why it's important what we're doing. And the second point is that the residents voted and sent a loud message to all the elected officials of the village, the 60-40 vote, that says that they want the village to control the highway department. And the third point, we as residents have a number of choices, all of which are expensive. And we could start from scratch. And, you know, I know that the $4.3 or $4.8 million price tag, I guarantee you it's going to be a lot more than that. And I'm sure that Mike would agree with that, that to start from scratch, buying the property, building the buildings, buying the equipment, buying the silos, getting everything is going to be far more than $5 million. Who's going to pay that tax? We're starting from scratch. That's going to be very expensive. We farm it out. We already talked about that. You know, third party, you know, if it comes from another municipality, we're going to be second dog in line to eat, and we're going to starve. We're not going to get the service that we get from our people. In the highway department, here's another thing that's very important. You guys already own this. You've paid for it for 20 years. You own it. It's silly to throw this away and start from scratch. I think a no vote is a great injustice to the residents.
Well, we are together, that's right. So it's not.
No.
We haven't voted on this yet.
All right. So, is there any other comments on this?
Yes, sir, I did have one. I think there's no doubt that we'd like to have everything go the way it's been going. I've lived in Homer Glen over 20 years. I never had any issues with snow. Mike, you've done a great job, there's no doubt. But I think we forget about the main thing here. The main thing is not that we don't want a public works. The main thing is we don't want that tax nailed onto us. Now, it's very easy. Anybody can just say, yeah, throw a tax on it. Don't worry about it. They'll pay for it. The true champion is the one that says, you know what? Let's sharpen those pencils. Let's see where we can grab funds from. And I know we've done it. We have the best in the business, right? We got all kinds of awards and everything for our type of accounting and transparency, I get it. But, you know, we've mentioned several times, yeah, we're in the black, you know, we don't owe anybody any money, all our bills are paid. Well, let's stay that way. You know, and the main thing is, and I'm sure that a lot of people here also agree, we're also conservative and fiscally responsive, and we're proud to ring that bell too. You're not the only one. But here's the question, okay? Do we want to, every time something like this happens, do we want those hands in our pockets? It seems Pritzker tried, he didn't get away with it because we didn't let him, we didn't vote it in. And I'll be honest with you, I understand that, you know, certain people think, well, once I get voted in, I have the power to make that decision and there's nothing you can say about it because you voted me in. I don't think that way, and that's the way. I'm not that way, sir, let me finish. I'm not that way at my place, and I'm not that way here. The people have spoken. Overwhelmingly, I'm sitting here listening to no new tax. That was what I ran on 2 years ago, and I'm not even up for election. I still got 2 more years to go, so I don't need to impress anybody at least for another 2 years. But I stand by that stance. I stand by slow, controlled growth. I get it. Nothing wrong with the public works, but at the expense of adding a new tax to that tax bill and then watching it go up, I'm sorry, but I've never seen a tax that's been eliminated or has gone down instead of up. And that's all I have to say towards that.
All right. I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How many taxes have we raised since you've been in office here?
I'm trying to avoid that.
How many taxes?
Sir, you said so yourself, you're not going to be in office.
How many taxes have
This
we
may not
done?
even be the same board. How do we know we get some cycles on this board? We don't.
Wait. I listened to you, now you listen to me.
You're asking me a question, I'm answering.
I am.
You're what?
How
Asking
many
me a question,
taxes
answering.
have you seen put before the village since we became in office?
And I tell you what I have seen? A new tax that we never had on its way. That's what I've seen. Okay.
And you also see that if we decided...
Sir, I'm not saying you haven't. I applaud you for it.
Motor fuel tax. What about that? We didn't put it on you. We put it on the business. And it all goes back into the village. We don't buy that. You know, everyone, okay, go ahead and laugh about it. We don't do anything to tax the people. When we did the gas tax on it, it was funny because when we got done with it and it was voted, we had one of the gentlemen that had a website before says you didn't charge enough. It's not coming from our residents, it's coming from the people that are coming in here because they can get the gas and the cigarettes cheaper. So, you know, we're not trying to hurt anyone. If anything, no, I'm not taking questions.
I have a question.
No, I'm not taking questions. This isn't a question and answer. Bruce?
Hey, folks, we had the open comments early on. If you have further questions, you can contact the village and they will respond. This is not an open forum right now. That's done. Okay, he gave you your time. Is that okay, Mr. Mayor?
Absolutely.
I can't stand for it. We can't have it, folks, with all due respect, okay? Enough.
So, to the motion. We're done with talking. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Hold on one second. Trustee Caprio.
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino.
No.
Trustee Gray. Aye. Trustee Backel.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Trustee Suisse.
No.
Aye.
No.
Trustee Suisse is no.
No, she's no. And call me. Because it's aye.
Mayor Yukich.
Aye. All right. Is there any old business?
Yes, Mayor, I have a little bit of old business from the last board meeting. And I believe Trustee Gray, you need to do a public...
Trustee Suisse, would you want to hold it as you won't be able to hear on the recording if people are talking in the background. I do apologize.
We still have an executive session.
You want it on the recording, it's got to be in the microphone and quiet. Thank you, Sharon.
No, I just say, I believe Trustee Gray owes it a public apology for his cheeky remark during the last board meeting concerning Mr. Luganville's comments on lighting. Mr. Luganville is a world-renowned expert, and I felt you were very disrespectful.
May I ask specifically what I said? I do remember some of my comments to Mr. Luganville, and I asked him if he had been with... No, excuse me. If you address me, let me address you. I believe I had asked him if he was with the International Dark Sky Association, the one that we use as our go-to guiding principles for our dark sky initiative and our lighting ordinance. And so what exactly was cheeky? I don't remember. I do remember being a little bit...
Then what he was saying back to you as a cheeky type of comment. You could, it's at 1 hour and 39 minutes.
Okay.
If you want to take a look.
You know, I don't want to
I thought using that term.
I do not want to belabor the point tonight, Trustee Suisse. I will view the video. I will write down the comments you're talking about, and I will address them at our January meeting. And if I believe I was cheeky, like you're saying, I will apologize. But if not, we're going to have this conversation
I
then.
heard people felt that you were.
Okay, I will view it because you don't have it to give to me. So let me have a chance to view it, and I will get back to you in January.
That's good. I just wanted, it bothered some people.
Okay, is there any other old business? Is there any new business? Next item is executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session for purposes of discussing purchase or sale of real property, potential of pending litigation?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Can we take 5 minutes?
Yes, we can.
Nine, 1, 8, 5. This meeting ID does not exist. Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound. You entered 833673365991185. This meeting ID does not exist. Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound.